wrong, when your team underperforms, or like last night, when your team embarrasses itself, you just kind of shake it off and you go, that's sports. Everybody's team puts on a performance at some point that you go, that's it. I'm taking all the logos, I'm putting them in the back of the closet, and I'm done. I cannot go out in public and show the world that I am a fan of this squad. I really do my best not to be that guy. But sometimes it happens. It's not that often, but it happened last night. So much that I had to lead the show off with it this morning. There was nothing else I was batting lead off tonight. We've got an NBA Finals game tonight that we've got to break down in great detail later on in the radio program. We have got an NHL Stanley Cup Finals that I mean it when I say I could not be more amped for Game 4 at Florida after the WWE pay-per-view we saw that ended Game 3. We've got Major League Baseball happening, including and without the Atlanta Braves to talk about. We've got, obviously, a cataclysmic and seismic shift taking place right now in the landscape of college sports that we have got to continue to keep our eyes on. We've now had a couple of days in the new era, and we got to keep breaking down the impacts as they are coming down the pipe. Because I thought yesterday Pat McAfee asked a couple of interesting questions that I wanted to get to that Pete Thamel, I was going to say had answers for, but really didn't. And I want to address that. And yet, with all of that happening, the Rob Brown All the Sports show, I am dialed in on this. And I guess a part of the reason why is, even though I know that U.S. men's national team footy is way down on the priority list for, I would assume, a large, if not consensus percentage of you all. I also understand that is because it hasn't won anything. Is that not like the number one question that we ask about sports all the time? Anytime that we bring up anybody in sports about are they a star, are they the GOAT, are they this, are they that? What is the number one question? And this drives me up a wall when we talk about athletes in team sports. But what is the number one question that comes up? What have they won? And Team USA football, soccer, has not really won anything. Yeah, we've won some gold cups, but all right, that's like going 4-0 in preseason football, right? Like nobody's ever hung a banner.
It's like winning a mid-season tournament in the NBA.
Honestly, as a mid-season tournament fan, you're right. I love the in-season tournament. I think it's a wonderful product, wonderful concept. I think they're going to sharpen up its execution over the years. Yet at the same time, if my team wins it, am I going to buy a t-shirt for it? I mean, yeah, but really only to aggravate Lonzo. Not because I'm going to go around I'm not, if the Pelicans ever win an NBA title, I might tattoo that trophy on my leg. But I'm not doing that with the in-season tournament, right? But is it something? Sure. Is it something that you know what it is, though? It's not something that the league's going to celebrate. It's not something that anybody outside of your team is going to celebrate. But fans will, and the organization will. Not because it's like a grand trophy that you're going to throw a parade over, but because it shows we're at least going in the right direction. We're at least moving in the right trajectory. Maybe not as quickly as we'd like, but at least we know we're competitive at this thing. So a couple of gold cups was wonderful. But Rob Brown does not own any 2018 Gold Cup title wear, right? I own a Women's World Cup Finals and Women's World Cup champion shirt. I own jerseys, whatever. I do not own any men's Gold Cup champion shirts, even though we beat Canada and Mexico en route to getting one of those. However, it was a good thing. Team USA men's football is not going to get on the consistent radar with y'all until they win something. And they've got to do that within the federation. They cannot rely on outside help. This is one of the reasons that over the past few years, I have complained greatly about ticket prices for U.S. soccer games. You want to go up to Charlotte when they play a friendly? Yeah, I got news for you. It's not an NFL team. Charging $100 to get people into the stadium on a Tuesday night ain't it, Chief. Now, if you charge $20 a ticket, you know what Rob Brown could do? Rob Brown could drop $100, buy 5 tickets, and take 2 other really good soccer buddies, and then a friend who's like, yeah, whatever, like I'll go to a live anything, and then maybe we win that guy over. But you won't do that. Nothing's changed within this federation for years outside of moving on from Greg and bringing in Patachania. And I'm not even ready to write him off yet. I saw people on some of the U.S. soccer message boards I'm on last night. Like, that's it, fire the guy. I'm not even there yet. We got a year to the World Cup. Can't do that. I'm not even there yet. What I am going to say is that they've got to win something. And if you can't figure out a way, to get the men on this team to want to play, if you can't figure out a way to get the fellas on this team to give a damn, 1 year today, 1 year away from the start of a World Cup on our territory, on our turf, in our stadiums, if you can't figure out a way to get the guys to care, we might as well just hand it off to somebody else. We might as well just give the World Cup, just send it to Canada. Honestly, just let Canada host it by themselves. Just let Mexico and Canada host it and drop out. If that's the best we're going to put together. And I'm not talking about the result. And I'm not talking about the talent. But it is hard for me to look at a roster that has the players that sat out, J.R. Reyna, Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic, whatever. And again, I'm not even mad at them for sitting out. I understand most of them. Tim Weah, all these guys sitting out. And understandably so. But if these guys are sitting out, and you're going to call up a bunch of MLS players and say, hey, we got roster spots for a couple of friendlies. Actually, not even a couple of friendlies. Last night was the send-off to the Gold Cup. Next up, actual international competition. If you're going to call up a bunch of guys and say, this is your chance, come pull on the Star-Spangled Banner, come rep the squad, show up, and fight for your country and your team. What I would like to think is we have a program, we have developed a system where we can identify solid talent, even if it's either past its prime or needs developing. We can find solid talent, we can put the jersey on them, and damn it, even if they're just going to go out there and get beat 4-0, at least they're going to go out there and crack skulls and be physical and give it an effort. But if I got a pool of guys outside of the top tier talent that gets their opportunity to go fight for that spot, and that's what they turn in, that's the effort we got, that tells me we got a fundamental problem at every level of the program. If today I got the call and they said, hey, Rob Brown, Gold Cup is in a few weeks, and based on what we saw last night, the guys we trotted out there just ain't it. So you're getting the call up, Rob. You're playing. You're center mid in the Gold Cup for Team USA. I don't know how to tell you how hard in the paint I would go to try to get back to my glory days. I don't know how to tell you how hard. I don't do it for my real life. But I can tell you, if they gave me the chance to put the flag on the chest, how beast mode I would focus on nothing else in the world just for the chance to see if I could get there and do something. And the guys that showed up last night just didn't do that. And so my question mark is, if I don't have that mentality out of guys trying to make the team, trying to perform well enough that they make the team, then do any of the guys that are on the team, the mainstays, the stalwarts, do any of them feel threatened? Do any of them feel like if I don't go out there and give it maximum effort, I could lose my role on this team? Does anybody in that starting 11 of the big names on this team feel like, if I show up to the friendlies leading up to the World Cup before the roster is finalized, and I suck, I may not go to the World Cup? Because last night, you saw the possible replacements, and they didn't give a crap. Or at least, if they did give a crap, they are so damn bad at this game that it didn't matter. But I can gauge effort without talent. You don't need to be talented for me to say, that guy's busting his ass. You don't need to be talented for me to say, that guy's grinding. That guy's working. He is pushing, he is running, he is sprinting, he is being physical on and off the ball. He's in the right spots. Nope, you don't need to be good for that. I can go out and watch my 6-year-old nephew practice soccer. And I can tell you the days that he cares and he's trying, and the days that he just wants to go home and eat a piece of birthday cake and go to bed. And I'll call him out on it. Lou, you suck today, dude. What are you doing out there? I wanted to go play with my friends. Well, then don't play soccer. Then get off the pitch. Then get off the field and let somebody on it who wants to play. Do you understand me?
Dude, he's 7.
I don't care.
I mean, okay.
These are the life lessons of sports. The life lessons of Little League sports are go out there, learn how to be a good teammate, learn how to be a hard worker, learn that practice makes perfect, learn how to win with dignity, lose with grace, yada, yada, yada. But if you're out there picking daisies, you're not learning any of those lessons. There's no point. You're not taking anything away from that. So, if my little nephew was sitting down to watch that game last night, and I pray that he wasn't, I hope his dad, after goal number 2, turned off the TV and said, go to bed, kid, because I'm not allowing you to watch gratuitous violence against Americans. Go to bed. But if you watched that game last night, I wouldn't be shocked if you said, why would I want to play for that team? Even at 6, 7 years old, why would I want to play for that team? Because they don't want to play for that team. And if they don't want to play for that team, if they got their effort to show that they're worthy of inclusion in the USMNT player pool for the World Cup, if that's the effort they turned in, then 0 people on the main roster are going to be concerned. Somebody might outcompete me for my job. And if they're not concerned someone will come in and outcompete them for their job, unless they just got that dog in them, and let's be real, there's like 3 of them that do, why do I expect I'm going to get the best out of them? 365 days away from starting the World Cup on our soil, and that's the effort we get. That's an embarrassment. All right, I'll stop talking soccer when we come back. Let's talk NBA Finals. Game number 3 tonight at Indy. How important is it for Indy to win? Very. But why? Lonzo and I will break that down next on the Rob Brown Show with the Fan Upstate. All right, Kane, thanks for jumping in.
By the way, I was not late, so
No, Lonzo was at work on.
somebody else was late.
Wasn't me.
Sorry, my morning started hectic, so I'm just like calming down for a second. Thank you, Kane. Cooper Kupp has a new hairstyle. It is messy.
Is it a broccoli head? Broccoli cut?
I will send it to you. I have sent it to you. I guess, I'd say I don't know what a broccoli head looks like. I don't know what that hairstyle is.
Oh, that's Surfer Dude.
Okay. It's just not what
It's like if Surfer Dude and a Karen had a baby.
It's not what I expected. You know? It's like, whoa. It's not a bad look. It's like, that's not really Cooper Kupp.
The Rob Brown Show carries on. NBA Finals game number 3. The venue shifts back to Indianapolis, Indiana this evening. The opening line, Oklahoma City favored by 5.5 points in this one. The over-under set at 228.5. To put that in comparison to games 1 and 2, Oklahoma City was favored by 9.5 in game 1. Obviously, the Pacers upset and won that one outright. The Thunder were favored by 10.5 points in game number 2. They blew out the Pacers in that game. The over-under in game 1, 231.5. The under cashed in game 2, it was 228.5, the same line as tonight. And the over cashed if you are interested in those numbers at all. To me, the great one labeled this game or said earlier in the week after we were reacting to game 2 that he believed, and I will ask him if the same is true today, that game 3 feels must win for Indiana. Zoe, do you still feel the same way? And if so, or if not, why?
Yeah, absolutely. This is very important. If they don't win this game, I think it's over. Because of the momentum, especially what OKC did, that was kind of a blowout. You don't want to come back from that. And it technically 2 blowouts. Came back from the first one and was able to win on the last second shot. And the second one, you couldn't come back from that blowout. They got to come out. They got to come out strong, and they cannot get behind by double digits again at any time in this game, or they're done. And that crowd is going to be behind them. And I think the Indiana crowd is louder than the OKC crowd. OKC crowd looked good.
It is loud.
The OKC crowd looked good, but the Indiana crowd, I think, is louder. You're going to have probably some dignitaries in some loud people in the arena.
Give Pat the mic.
Exactly, to hype it up before it starts. And I think they'll be loud the entire time.
I agree and disagree at the same time. I do not think it is necessarily must win. I do think if you do not win, not only obviously does game 4 become a must win, because with the one thing you cannot do, whether you lose 3 and win 4 or win 3 and lose 4, if you're going to split, you can't do worse than a split at the crib. If you do worse than a split at the crib. If you give them both of them at Indiana, not only will there be blood in the water for OKC, but here's the obvious thing. That also means you're going back to OKC facing elimination. The Oklahoma City Thunder fan base, that home court advantage is spectacular. So is Indy's. I'm not taking away from Indy's. But Oklahoma City's fan base is a different breed of cat right now. And if the possibility of winning the NBA Finals is in front of that crowd in Game 5, I don't know if the 96 Bulls are going in there to win. That place is going to be unhinged in that moment. So, you can't do worse than a split. You have to ensure that you are getting at least one more, because if you are going to end up in an elimination game back in OKC, I'd prefer it be in Game 7. I'd prefer it be in a spot where OKC is feeling an immense amount of pressure. There is a big difference, I think, between having the visitor on the brink of elimination in Game 6, but knowing that, well, if they win this one, we still got 2 more to go. Versus having it in Game 7, where it's, if they win this one, they lift the Larry O'Brien on our hardwood. There's some pressure to that. And while both of these teams lack NBA Finals experience, largely, there are some guys that have played in them. But as teams, they lack NBA Finals experience. I would make the argument that the Indiana Pacers have got big series experience that maybe the Thunder don't. And that, to me, is a potential breaking point if this thing went to 7. So, with that being said, I do not think that Game 3 is a must-win great one. I will say it would really be nice to win. I would much rather have Game 4 in the balance up to 1. Hell, maybe even go into that game knowing we can push them to elimination before we go back to OKC. If Indy's able to win both at home, have OKC on the brink of elimination, all that means is, and again, this isn't necessarily the mindset that I want to have, but I also know people are people. If we can force this thing back to OKC, we'd love to win it in 5 on their court, but at the end of the day, if we lose it, we know we're coming back to Indy with a chance again to win it on our floor. And on top of that, we know our fan base is going to be rocking. And on top of that, we know the Thunder are going to know, even if they give you the old cliche of, they beat us twice here, now we're furious about it, we're coming from. You lost twice on that floor. That's in the back of the brain. I don't care how mentally tough you are. Knowing that you went into their gym and got beat twice is going to be a bit of a mental holdup, I would think. So, not a must-win Game 3, but it would be really, really nice and make it a hell of a lot easier for us to win this thing. The other thing that Zoe brought up there that I think is an apt key word for Game 3 is the concept of momentum. Momentum's real. Momentum is a thing. It is largely inspired. I have this debate with my bride, my loved one, all the time, because she's big on the word manifesting. That's what a lot of the kids are into now. They're into manifesting things. Put it on your vision board. If you see it as a possibility, if you believe in it as a reality, good things will happen to you. And I've told her before, the concept of manifesting, I think, is just a woo way of saying work towards your goal, right? If you manifest that one day you and I are going to retire to a beach house in Destin, it is not just that the universe is going to go, oh, they really want that, so here's that. It is, you are seeing a goal, envisioning the goal, and are therefore more likely to work towards the goal. And to me, that is kind of the same concept as momentum. If a team goes and they blow you out in game 2 on their floor, and then they come into your house and they beat you in game 3, and they dominate you in game 3, what happens mentally? On your side of it, you were looking at it and going, oh, crap, we're in trouble. They're kicking our ass right now. We're in trouble. On their side, they are looking at it, and they are saying, we got them, fellas. We got them. They are wobbly and on the ropes. Let's go put the kill shot in. It doesn't matter what aspect of life you are talking about. I believe this to be true. The most important thing that you can have when you are attacking any situation is confidence. I mean that. The most important thing you can have when attacking any situation is confidence. If you are talking to someone new, whether you're going to ask them out on a date, or you're about to hit them with a sales pitch, or whatever, if you roll into that conversation with anything but confidence, you're getting dismissed. Hi, I saw you from across the bar, and I know that you probably don't usually go for a guy like me, but I was wondering if maybe I could buy you a drink. You're getting a no 99% of the time. Hi, yes, I'm Rob from the radio station, and I do a show. I don't really know if anybody listens to or not, but I do a show, and I think it's pretty good, but I don't. But it's up to you to decide. But I was wondering if maybe you'd want to advertise on my radio show. No, not if that's how you talk about it. But if you walk up and you go, "Hey, girl, my name's Rob." All right, don't do it like that. That's creepy. But if you go up there with confidence.
I didn't know you could get that deep. That was impressive.
That would hurt a little bit. If you go up there with that confidence, you're more likely to get you know what? You can buy me a drink. If you call the guy and you go, hey, my name's Rob Brown. I host the morning show on the Fan Upstate. It is the best damn radio show you're going to find around here. Would you want to be a part of it, or do you want to miss out? I'm not saying you're going to get a yes every time, but you're going to get a hell of a lot more yeses. Confidence manifests itself into performance. If you attack something with confidence, you're just inherently more likely to succeed. If you attack something with a lack of confidence, you are inherently more likely to fail. If Oklahoma City goes into this game, wins this game, dominates this game, I'm not saying OKC is that much better than Indiana. In fact, quite the opposite. I've got a ticket out on Indiana to win both in 6 and in 7, both at plus numbers. Because I think they can. I'm not saying they will. I think they can win this game in either one of those games. Win this series in either one of those games. And I say that because of a number of things. Number one, I think they are the best team, and I'm talking about playing team basketball, team in the NBA playoffs this year, A. And B, because I think that the Thunder took an overrated path to the NBA Finals. They're very, very good. They're very, very good, but I also think the Timberwolves were a bit overrated. I think that the path the Timberwolves had was kind of a joke, to be honest with you. I don't think the Thunder got the best of anybody. I think they're a bit overrated. Good team, just a bit overrated. So I'm all in, but I'm going to say it straight up. I don't care if you are the best team in the postseason. If you get blown out on their court and you get blown out on your court, you might be the most mentally tough team in basketball. You may have the best sports psychologist in the world working with you to get you there. But if you get your ass handed to you twice, there's going to be doubt in the back of your brain. Not everybody. Some people who have that Mamba mentality, they may be able to shut that part of the brain up when the ball gets tipped next time out. But I think most people, L's stay fresher longer than dubs. It is easy to move on past a win. A loss sticks with you. So this is not a must win, in my opinion, for Indiana. But I also agree with Lonzo in that if they do not win, and especially if they get it handed to them tonight by the Thunder, the path back becomes very difficult. The path back becomes almost irreconcilable. The path back becomes nay impossible at that point. Not because they're not talented enough to win. Because at that point, the Thunder, who are just as good of a basketball team, the Thunder will smell the blood in the water, and the Pacers will be looking at this going, what do we do now? What do we do now? How do we handle this now? What's next? How do we attack this next? And the answer to that is play better. That ain't it. That ain't it. You know your coaching's fine. Rick Carlisle's the best in the postseason. You know your talent level is there. Like, how do you handle that? So this game to me, I'm not going to say it must go to the way of the Pacers. I am going to say that if it does not go the way of the Pacers, they're going to be in a world of hurt. World of hurt. All right. The Pacers will be in a world of hurt. You are all about to be in a world of pleasure because it's time for a sports flash.
It's always so creepy, man. I don't know why you do that. I gotta follow this. The Atlanta Braves dropped a game to Milwaukee 4-1 last night. Grant Holmes took the loss, allowing 5 hits and 3 runs through 5.1 innings, but striking out 9 in the effort. Atlanta had 8 hits in the game, but only 4 at-bats with runners in scoring position. NCAA President Charlie Baker told collegiate administrators yesterday that the House versus NCAA settlement helped the organization to avoid bankruptcy. Baker said the inability of college sports to change over the years put the entire enterprise at risk. In their effort to replace the fired Tom Thibodeau, the New York Knicks have reached out to Houston and Minnesota requesting interviews with coaches Ime Udoka and Chris Finch, but both requests were denied, according to ESPN. And now there's, some guy in Dallas that they'd like to talk to, but they'll probably say no to. Hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Show is next, right here on the Fan Upstate. Good for them. Anything that helps the station. I mean, we're a team here. There have been times maybe we weren't a team, but we're a team here. They're out there doing their thing. I'm happy for them. See, there's this thing that if you only have 2 shows on the station that are live, if you wish the other show ill, you're hurting the entire station, which hurts you. So why would I do that? By the way, and that's sincere. That's not a canned answer given to me by management. By the way, they're well on their way, and they may already be the most successful show ever in that time slot. I think they put to shame anybody who's ever been in that time slot. And I'm sure they root for us just the same way. Or they root for Rob. They may not root for me because, it's hard to root for me because I'm mean. Unless you're a mean person. If you're a mean person, then you're rooting for the mean guy. Are you, though? If you're the mean guy, are you rooting for the mean guy? Or are you looking at that guy going, man, that guy's mean? Not realizing that you're the mean guy also. Maybe in your life there's only room for one mean guy. I think mean guys usually they don't clash. They kind of band together and go after the nice people. Although their laughs are starting to be similar, and that's kind of weird. After all the nice stuff that I said, when your laughs start becoming similar, we don't have to worry about that. Our laughs are never going to be the same. Because you hear me laugh out loud so seldom. I chuckle, Rob guffaws. They both, I don't know, are those belly laughs maybe? His lack of participation means he totally agrees with everything I just said. Which he should, because I'm right.
The Rob Brown Show underway. It's the Fan Upstate. Yesterday we had a chance here on the radio program to have the first local media one-on-one with the brand new coach of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, Chad Costello. We appreciate his time, as well as buddy of the show, Mark Bonetti, for helping us set that up. And we'll also tell you that if you missed that interview, it's going up right after the show today. I had to do some editing to it last night. We had a couple of technical issues and glitches that I had to handle and take care of, but I did get that entire interview finally edited at about 10:45 last night. So that's going to go up today right after the show is over for you Hacky fans, you local sports fans. If you missed our first interview with new head Swamp Rabbits coach Chad Costello, that interview will go live. I would expect it to be posted by around 10:30 this morning across our social media. At the Fan Upstate on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, on all the things. I will have it posted, but you'll want to make sure you're following the Fan Upstate on YouTube if you are not already, because I will post the video interview in its entirety on our YouTube page later on this morning.
Pal.
Buddy. Hey, buddy. It is 7:02 in the morning on the dot, which means you have 58 minutes to get into the office. You have 58 minutes until you've got to respond to all of those passive-aggressive emails. You've got to take care of that one project that you stopped working on yesterday at 4:35 p.m. because you said, screw it, I'm going home, I'm over this crap. And once you get done with that, you're going to take that first and very well-earned break. You're going to walk down the hallway. You're going to go sit down with that one coworker that you actually enjoy talking to. And you enjoy talking to them because they enjoy talking to you about sports. Well, if you're going to talk about sports, you need to know what is going on in the world of sports. And if you need to know what is going on in the world of sports, worry not, my dear friends. Lonzo and I got you covered because we do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
I'm not going to play with it anymore.
Yeah, stop it.
before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 stories.
You see what it is? Stories are my favorite thing because the stories with passion. They're stories.
Ham! The top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports with your coworkers this morning. These are the items you will be talking about. Let's dive right in with item number 1. You get a break, you get a reprieve today because there was no NBA or NHL finals games last night. However, I am going to take you in a different direction. Exactly 1 year and 1 day before the United States, Mexico, and Canada host the 2026 World Cup, Team USA Men's Soccer played its final friendly before they launch into the CONCACAF Gold Cup. Now, before I go off on my little mini tangent here, I do want to point out that the Gold Cup for us this year, outside of pride and love of the game, is largely irrelevant this year. World Cup host countries are given an automatic qualification spot. The Gold Cup is ordinarily part of the World Cup qualification process. We do not need to qualify, meaning that the World Cup is effectively a tune-up tournament against a bunch of other teams that are working towards World Cup qualification. So it's not the most important tournament that this team has ever played in outside of a World Cup. However, it is one of the last handful of games that Team USA can participate in before they launch into their World Cup campaign. Last night's friendly was one of the last friendlies, exhibition matches, tune-ups, warm-ups that Team USA was going to get before we start the 2026 World Cup here on our soil. The Americans got routed by Switzerland last night 4-0. It was the 4th straight home loss for Team USA dating back to 1988. It is just the 3rd time in the 100-plus year history of Team USA International Soccer that they have lost 4 consecutive home games. It was the first time that they've lost 4 consecutive games at all, dating back to 2007. Switzerland scored in the 13th, 23rd, 33rd, and 36th minute. And before anybody says, well, hold your horses there, Rob, yeah, they lost by 4. But they didn't give up another goal, and they looked a heck of a lot better in the second half, didn't they? Yeah. That's because Switzerland did not open up an attack at all in the second half. Switzerland is one of the best defensive teams on the planet. And I will go one step further and point out that this was our C and D squad taking on Switzerland's mostly A and smattering of B squad. And Switzerland is a good soccer nation. So it shouldn't be the end of the world. However, it is not about the 4-0 loss. It is about the fact that there was just little to no effort out of this team last night. It's one thing when you lose because the other team is just better than you. I've told the story countless times about my old middle school coach, Tom Grant, when my team, Meg's Middle School, lost the game to our county rivals, Pryor Middle School. And Tom Grant walked in, this old gruff Marine veteran, and he took off his big old straw hat, and he sat on a bench press bench in the locker room with us, and we were all prepared for the ass chewing of a lifetime. And he said, Boys, today you had the biggest problem in sports. The other team was just better than you. That's what happened last night. But you know what Tom Grant did not say to my middle school program that day? He did not say they were better than you and they outworked you and they out-efforted you, because they did not. We gave it what we had. We gave it the best we could put on the table. And unfortunately for us, so did they, and they were just more talented. I cannot say the same about the effort from last night. Were they better than us? Yes. Did we have any level of effort to be proud of? Absolutely not. It was pathetic. It is at the point where that game alone, there's been plenty of other stuff to complain about around this International Football Club, Team USA Soccer. Plenty to complain about in terms of mismanagement, in terms of the federation not understanding that this isn't the NFL. And if you run this thing as a for-profit enterprise, it's going to fail. Not understanding how to build a proper developmental pipeline to find the next generation, et cetera, et cetera. All that perfectly logical things to complain about. The one thing I never thought that I would say is we didn't even try. That these were guys who had an opportunity to try to get their name on the roster for the World Cup a year and a day later, and it was like they couldn't be bothered. It's like they couldn't be bothered. I haven't been that embarrassed in a very long time. Let's get to item number 2. Charlie Baker is the president of the NCAA. Yesterday, he was down in Orlando, Florida, at a bit of a, gathering, I guess, of collegiate athletics administrators. And during his keynote address, the address being, by the way, the first time that Charlie Baker has spoken publicly since the House v. NCAA settlement was approved last Friday night, said that, quote, "Blame whoever you wish, but the simple truth is clear. College sports' collective inability or unwillingness to change years ago put the entire enterprise at risk. Is the settlement disruptive? Very much so. But it is an opportunity for the D1 community to pay for back damages over 10 years instead of triple that amount all at once. And it creates a future that comes with choices instead of bankruptcy." End quote. Obviously, the NCAA having to come off of $2.8 billion in back damages over the next decade to any athlete, to athletes who competed in college at any time from 2016 through the present. Obviously, it added the 20.5 and will go up $1 million in annual revenue sharing beginning at the end of this year when football season rolls around. Baker said, quote, "I ran around as the Pied Piper and told everybody it was one of those things that I'll always remember where I was," talking about the moment that the settlement came down last Friday. Baker went on to say, quote, "I've talked to a lot of schools in D1 at every level. They all get the fact that it's better to be able to make choices than have choices made for you, which is kind of what the alternative was. A lot of people who are predicting what's going to happen here, good for them, but the bottom line is we don't know. And I think it's important to let this play out and then make adjustments if people need to." Did Charlie Baker say anything there that I did not say on Monday or yesterday's show about the settlement? No. But he's the president of the NCAA, and I'm some jackass with a microphone. So it's just nice to have validation. We will talk more about this a little bit later on in the show, but we do have to get to item number 3. Carolina Panther mini camp got underway yesterday. This one, a 3-day affair that will have quite a bit of 7-on-7 style performance, a lot of installation of the offense, and a lot of getting to know you, getting to know all about you between teammates. J.C. Horn is one of the better cornerbacks in the National Football League. J.C. Horn has also developed into a leader when he's been able to stay healthy of this Carolina football program. After practice yesterday, J.C. Horn was doing his media availability, and he was asked a couple of questions about Bryce Young. And he told the story that at one point during 7-on-7 offense versus defense, he said, J.C. Horn said, I overheard Bryce Young's play call coming out of the huddle. And of course, and this is me adding an editorial aside, not what J.C. said, but any good defender, when they overhear the offensive play call from the QB, is going, obviously, to tell the rest of the defense, hey, boys, here's what's coming. Well, apparently, BY walked over to JC, got in his face, told him he should not be doing that in no particular language. And that, quote, y'all should believe in yourself, not have to do that. And apparently went off on JC. JC said, quote, he's talking way more this year. He's talking trash every year. Adam Thielen had some comments as well about the rise of BY9.
A huge reason why I'm coming back is the way that he handled adversity, the way that he came back, and the way that he kind of took ownership of this is what I need to do to help this team be successful, and I'm going to do it to the fullest of my ability. And for him to go out and do that week in and week out when he kind of came back and just continue to just exponentially grow and help this team is, again, that's a big reason why I'm coming back and excited to be here. And then to see what he's done this offseason, the confidence he came back with, same offense, same kind of play caller, quarterback coach, kind of that coaching staff that's around him, players around him that he has comfort with. You've just seen his maturity in the game of football in the NFL, personally and professionally, grow at such a high level that it makes it really fun to be around. And my wife actually made a comment, and she's not obviously in the building, but she made a comment. She's like, man, really, Bryce is really, he's really coming to his own. Just seeing his interviews and things like that, it just seems like he's in a really good place mentally. And as we all know, that's huge in sport and in life. So excited to see what he will do and how he can kind of help bring this team to the next level.
Adam Thielen said BY's growth and development is why I came back. Now, I don't know if he means from retirement or moving to another team or whatever, but it doesn't matter. He said, that's why I came back. After practice yesterday, he said, and I quote, guys are finally sick of being the same old Carolina Panthers. We want to get back to what they did here in the past from 2015 and some of those other years where they made deep playoff runs when they had the crowd involved and the city pumped up. That just shows guys are sick of the same old, same old. JC went on to say, quote, when I'm talking trash to the receivers and talking trash to Bryce, it's like brotherly love, almost like you grow closer through that. It's almost like fighting with your brother every day at home, and as soon as y'all go to the ball, nobody else better say something to him or you're rolling for him. Talking about BY yesterday, Dave Canales said, quote, he just has a defiance to him. That's just kind of the way of competing. He's not super animated with it, but he definitely thrives off of it, feeds off off that energy. He takes chances when he can because JC is trying to bait him into throwing the ball over there, but it does bring a level of confidence to the guys. Hey, we're dangerous when we're out there, end quote. When Russell Wilson said dangerous in that terrible Subway commercial a few years ago, it went on to spark a ton of internet memes that are still absolutely gold medal caliber today. When Dave Canales said yesterday, we're dangerous when we're out there, maybe it's the optimism that this team will be good, the optimism that they're developing into a contender, the optimism that this team will go on the playoffs next year and Rob Brown will book some remotes and make a little extra money. Optimism. But when Canales said we're dangerous when we're out there, I got to tell you, great one.
I got a little intrigued.
I'm not trying to be negative here, but I want to see how it translates to the field. It's real easy to do all that talking in the offseason. And there seems to be a quiet excitement, or not necessarily a quiet excitement, a building excitement about this team. A lot of people picking them to do a lot more than they've done in the last 5 or 6 years. We'll see. As someone who, this is my favorite NFC team, I'm not quite as negative as you are about your team, but I'm close. So I want to see what they do that very first game. And how that translates.
I mean, I do too, but we're
by the way,
90
I'm not
days away
about to
from
cry. I'm about to cough.
We're 90 days away from
similar.
it. So it is very simply I can gauge off of what I have to gauge off of right now. And what I have to gauge off of right now.
Listen, Rob. How many times have we heard people? Oh, it's my guy, man. We're doing good. We're out here. Things are working. We're really excited. We've heard that about a lot of teams, and it doesn't always translate. Were they starting to improve at the end of the year last year? Yes. I'm more interested in seeing what the defense does and how they're able to pick that up, because that's going to help him do a lot more if the defense gets better.
I don't disagree with any of that. I don't disagree that, none of this is going to matter if they go get their asses handed to them by Jacksonville in week 1. I'm not saying any of this is going to matter. What I'm saying is we're still 92 days away from the start of the NFL season. This is what we have to gauge off of. And I have not heard this level of attitude, this level of confidence. I got multiple dudes on the team saying my guy, BY, my special baby boy's out there talking to the defense. Have we seen Bryce Young talk to anybody since he left Bama? No. But now he's out there jawing with J.C. Horn, telling him, hey, maybe try to be good instead of trying to cheat. Like, I'm in for it. No, I got nothing to lean off of other than these stories. But over the past 2 seasons, since he showed up, have we had any of this in the preseason? Have we had anything like this? No. We've had, he's throwing some good passes. We're seeing the field well out there. This is the first time somebody has said something to the tune of, we're dangerous. And right now, it's what we got to lean on. All right, we'll talk more about that coming up later on the show. Got plenty more we need to cover. Lonzo just hit on something that I do want to address, which is we're going into day 2 of OTAs. We've had a lot of conversation about my special baby boy, Bryce Young, about Xavier Legette, about Tetairoa McMillan, about the Chuba Hubbard, about the offense. There's something we have not heard yet, and it does concern me a little bit. And I'll tell you what that is when we come back on The Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
I sent you your new favorite meme to send people. Look at the hands.
That's really funny.
That better be what he is in that movie.
Yep.
I think it's going to be, because James Gunn doesn't care.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's really funny. All right, guys, give me 30 seconds. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I don't need you talking about the Saints. Bye. And your completely unnecessarily sarcastic comment there, Jacob. Jacob says my mic sounds like it's not.
I fixed it.
Okay.
Somehow I got out of utility. I thought it was
Oh.
in there. Did you take it out when you were over there?
I didn't touch anything, so.
I screwed up. It's my fault.
All right, we're good.
Fat fingers.
Each episode, I'll be joined by a rotating group of women's basketball experts to talk WNBA, college hoops, the new Unrivaled League, and the shifting landscape of the sport. The game is growing, and so are we. Listen to and follow the Women's Hoop Show and Odyssey podcast, available now for free on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sponsored by Novant Health Urgent Care.
Doctor's Care is now Novant Health Urgent Care. Visit NovantHealthUrgentCare.org to find a location near you.
On your radio at 97.7 FM, 1330 AM, Greenville, 97.1 FM, 950 AM, Spartanburg.
Listen on your phone, download the Odyssey app, and search The Fan Upstate.
There's a whole lot more to know about sound if you really want to go into the subject.
Your smart speaker. Just say play 97 The Fan Upstate. On your HD radio at WFBC HD3. One more time. And on your computer at the Fan.
FanUpstate.com.
Text or call. One number does it all. 84432.
The focus of the Carolina Panthers heading into OTAs, heading into summer camps, headed into preseason, from just about everybody, is going to be on the offense. And that's understandable from the perspective of, well, everyone. There are questions about, was the development and progression of Bryce Young last year legitimate or was it a mirage? There are questions about the wide receiver core. Is Xavier Legette going to be better with the dropsies this year? Is Teteroa McMillan going to be able to have the impact that you want a first-round draft pick to have? Is Chuba Hubbard going to be able to keep up with the level of success that he has had, effectively removing Miles Sanders from the equation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And those are all questions Panther fans should be keeping an eye on as well. But we have heard, obviously, from Dave Canales about the offense. We have heard from Bryce Young. I played you the clip just a few minutes ago from Adam Thielen saying that Bryce Young's change of as a leader, as a quarterback, as a person, was a big part of the reason that he elected to come back to Carolina for the 2025 football season. You heard the comments I gave you, read the quotes from J.C. Horn saying that Bryce is out there talking junk to the defense during OTAs, is out there telling them what's up, is out there making the throws, et cetera, et cetera. All these things are good. All of these things should be intriguing. All of these things should be, for Panthers fans at least, exciting. Because I pointed out that in the couple of years that BY has been in the building, including last year when Dave Canales was the head coach at this point in the offseason, we had a lot of comments, but none of them like what we've been hearing over the past 2 or 3 weeks. None of the comments sounded like they had any bite to them. We didn't hear BY's talking smack. We didn't hear guys talking about 2015 style playoff runs. We didn't hear, we want to be them guys. We want to get the city excited. We heard a lot of, I would dare say, tentative conversations about this football club from this football club. This is the first time we have heard some guts, some bite to go along with the bark the last couple of years. I think this is important. But there is something we have not heard a lot out of. And Lonzo kind of hit on it when we were talking about this to wrap up the cheat sheet in the last segment. We haven't heard really anything about the defense. And that, to me, is obviously as big of a question mark coming into this season as the offense is, for different reasons. And again, we have pointed out that this was a defense that over the past couple of years has been plagued by injuries. J.C. Horn has had plenty of them. Derek Brown, I said this on BetMGM Tonight last Tuesday to PJ Glasser. I said, I think Derek Horn might be the best defensive tackle in the NFL that nobody says is the best defensive tackle in the NFL. And PJ was like, I think you're right. I think you're right. There are the defensive tackles that we talk about. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that he just was unavailable last year. And if Americans can't see it on TV, it's not happening. So he wasn't on TV. He's not a thing. But I pointed out that a lot of what went wrong for the defense last year just had to do with guys being unavailable. And I think that might have been the biggest problem, both in terms of performance and the narrative around the team. So you're genuinely hoping that you're going to get that back. You're going to get that fixed. This was a team that gave up more points, 534, in a single season than any other defense. They had 32 sacks, 17 takeaways, both towards the bottom of the league. They gave up 59 offensive touchdowns, 35 of them through the air. So the defense just has to get better, because what you don't want to be is the Cincinnati Bengals, where you found your guy at QB, and as I've told you he would the whole time, because I know ball, Bryce Young turns into a very good quarterback. You give him the weapons. You give him McMillan. You move Thielen, who is still performing at a almost unbelievable high level for his age. You give him XL as your big go-to dude. You give him Chuba Hubbard, who has developed exceptionally well into a running back one. You give him a couple of guys, Rico Dowdle out of Dallas. John Brooks is not going to be here this season, but at this point, I'm kind of thinking that ship may have sailed, but you're kind of hoping that John Brooks will be able to come back from ACL surgery number 2 and be that scat back option, that CJ Spiller style option. You give them all the weapons. You go out there. This offense looks legitimate. This offense looks good. And then the defense gives up 1,000 points. We have now gone through rookie minicamp. We have now gone through OTAs. We have now entered into, or are entering into, day 2 of true minicamp. And I have heard nothing about this defense. A defense that you added 4 prospects in edge rushers. A defense that you have added Cam Jackson out of Florida. A big old run stopper in the middle. You added Patrick Jones II. You added Bobby Brown III, Tershawn Wharton. All good players. I don't know if any of them are going to be great. I don't know if any of them are going to be threatening Pro Bowl rosters towards the end of this year. But I do think they are all good players that can have an impact. You added guys in spades to the defense, on top of getting JC back, fingers crossed, at 100%. You added back into the mix Derek Brown. Again, maybe the best DT in the league that nobody references as the best DT in the league. You get him back from injury. You lose some guys. You lost Shaq. He signed with Buffalo yesterday. You lose some guys. There's no doubt that's the NFL. But you added quite a bit. And here we are, a month and some change removed from the draft. We've had our rookie camp. We've had our first OTAs. We are now in our mini camp, and not a word about the defense. I have gone from, or in the last 10 minutes, I have gone from, on one hand, absolutely buzzing, if for no other reason than the way this team sounds about the offense. Got to see it. Got to see what it looks like. We're not even wearing shoulder pads yet. But the way the team is talking about the offense has caused a little juice in your boy. to, on the other side of it, kind of hitting the brakes a little bit. Not because of the offense, but pumping the brakes because at this point, I would love to hear about some guys that are standing out on defense. One of the rookies, one of the new additions, Ejiro Evero. I haven't even heard a quote from him about this defense yet. I haven't heard Dave Canales say a word about this defense yet. And that is where my hesitation to go all in on the call of Cats to win the division is coming from, because you are going to have a defense to do that. All right, when we come back here in just a minute from right now, we'll dive back into this college football, college sports settlement. McAfee had Pete Thamel on yesterday and asked him a couple of questions I thought were very interesting that I'd like to respond to as well on The Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Excuse me just a minute, guys. I'll be right back. the House v. NCAA settlement that was handed down. And I had a couple of questions. And by I mean literally everyone has some questions about where we're going to go from here. There are questions about the revenue sharing. There are questions about how that's going to work out, how that's going to be afforded. There are some very good questions, and I will let you know that yesterday had a very pleasant conversation with two different people. One who is the founder of a national NIL collective, and one who is the, as a matter of fact, the dean of law at a university in New England, who I will be having on the show over the next couple of days.
What a title.
Yeah, I know. It's a big get. I'm pretty excited about it. The NIL collective individual, because obviously they are going to be impacted by what is going to happen next. I had been kind of working under the assumption that NIL collectives would effectively fade away. And the more I've looked at this, the more I've researched, it looks more like quite the opposite. Like NIL collectives will still exist, but their role will change. They will now go from effective distribution point to more of a contract acquisition group, right? Like they are going to exist, but now in the role of helping athletes get connected with possible NIL deals. But the other thing that I was told yesterday is that the expectation is that NIL collectives are going to be, I don't want to say acquired by, but will be working more under the wing of the academic institutions that they work alongside of, because obviously with the concept of the NIL Go platform and all of that, and the fact that with the new College Sports Commission having ultimate autonomy over discipline, over punishment, over guidelines, regulations, etc., and the fact that schools have to make sure their athletes are reporting the NIL deals that meet certain parameters, etc., schools basically want to make sure that they have a very closely trained eye on these collectives. Because if these collectives go rogue and start signing kids to NIL deals and not reporting them to the university and to the NIL Go, and the CSC comes down on these schools, and they've given up their right to challenge the rulings levied by the CSC, these collectives, if not very closely monitored, and there's going to be a great deal of trust with the athletes as well.
So the collectives basically is going back to the $500 handshakes.
No.
Because
although $500 is an interesting number because it is $600 that must be reported for an NIL deal.
Okay. All right. So what now they go back behind closed doors. I just
no.
How many times is it going to be things like this? So it's going to have to be caught a couple of times and prosecuted before people don't think they can get away with it.
I would have two responses to it. And again, I will acknowledge that I am working from the view of optimism, right? And I think there's a reason for that, and I'll come to that here in just a minute. But the reason that they are doing this is not so that they can go back to the $500 handshakes and everything happened behind closed doors. The function of an NIL in the new era, as I understand it, and again, I will be, after the show is over today, working on a couple of guests, one from a collective and one from a legal standpoint who has feelers in this world. My understanding is that NIL collectives from this point forward will effectively be used as a meeting place between businesses and athletes, right? If you are Bob's Used Cars and you would like to have a member of the Gamecocks represent you via NIL deal, then you would be able to call the Garnet Trust and say, hey, this is Bob from Bob's Used Cars. And I would like to have Nick Harbor on an NIL deal with Bob's Used Cars. And the collective can effectively act as the negotiating arm between the business and the kid, but doing so under the wing of, and this is hypothetical, obviously, because Bob's Used Cars isn't a thing. Well, I'm sure it is somewhere, but act as a negotiating arm, and in doing so under the wing of the Gamecock Athletic Department, ensure that every element of the meet and greet, the contract signing, the deal, and the paying of the deal all falls within compliance of the rules, regulations, and protocols established and put into place by the College Sports Commission. It's quite the opposite because, and I will agree with one thing that you did say, which is the violation of the rules is going to need to be treated first, second, third time with the heaviest of hands from the College Sports Commission. I do not think that there is room to play around with here. I do not think that there is room to let a team off the hook out of the gate, because we will get to a point, as we have been in before, when the toothless NCAA was in charge, where schools go, you know what? All we need to do is find a way to make an argument that there is some sort of legal reason that the NCAA's rules don't apply or can't be enforced, and threaten them with it, and they'll back off. With the College Sports Commission, the concept is that all of the schools, at least within the Power Four, will be signing an agreement of some type that basically says, we recognize their authority, we recognize their status as the disciplinary arm, and should they bring the hammer down on us for any violation, we waive the right to sue them. We can enter arbitration with them. We can go sit in front of a neutral third party and make our argument as to why their punishment is unfair, too strict, not enforceable, whatever. But whatever the arbitrator decides is the outcome, we agree that we will follow that. And I do think what you don't want to do is have a situation where the first time a school violates whatever the protocols, the guidelines, the guideposts, the rules are from the CSC, they go into arbitration and they walk out of arbitration with a punishment that's not that bad. You want a school to go, yeah, hey, listen, NIL Collective, here's the deal. If you get us in trouble with the CSC, you effectively prevent us from being able to be competitive for X amount of years. Make it to where the folks pulling the strings recognize that if they violate a rule and they are caught violating said rule, they will be the sole and individual reason that their college football team cannot compete for anything for 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11 years, so that the punishment, and more importantly, because I'll tell you this, the only thing worse, I think, to say a business in, let's go theoretical again, the only thing worse to a business in Ann Arbor, Michigan, than making that team uncompetitive for 3, 5, 7 years because they violated the rule and Michigan had the hammer brought down on them because of it, the only thing worse than knowing that they are the reason that Big Blue can't go to a natty. What do you think happens to that business in the market of Michigan fans if it is outed that they're the reason they can't compete?
I think that's a poor team to use as an example, since they recently cheated and got away with it.
Right, but that's the point. Not under the College Sports Commission, right? Like, that's why the commission has to be heavy-handed. They got to be buttholes out of the gate.
See, you said that they would go to that sponsor and say, see what you did. But if it's a big-name sponsor, if Nike is paying people in violation, are you going to be mad at Nike if they're one of the sole providers for just about everything you've got as a school?
if they prevent you from being, let's say, and when I say heavy-handed, I'm not talking about saying you can't go to the playoffs. If I say heavy-handed, I'm saying minus 15 on your roster allocation, all right? You get 15 less players than everybody else. Deal with that. You lose X amount of practices. You lose X recruiting period. And oh, by the way, not only can you not go to the playoffs, you can't play in a bowl game period for X amount of years. And oh, by the way, that takes all those millions of dollars of revenue off the table, but you're still required to hit your revenue sharing number.
Maybe they have the foresight to know that cheating is going to happen, so they put all these extra roster spots in every sport. So when they take it away, it doesn't really hurt the team.
Well, I mean, okay, now you are lovingly. Now you're delving into conspiratory theory issues.
No, but it's if you're thinking ahead to something, I think it's feasible. I think it's definitely a possibility.
All right. Okay, let's say it is. It's still conspiracy theory levels, right? And it's not saying that it's an incorrect conspiracy theory. What I'm saying here is even if you did it that reason, right? You said you can have 115 roster spots across college football. And then you go and you say, all right, Oregon, Nike screwed you. They did too many NIL deals. You busted the cap, or you gave impermissible NIL deals, or you didn't go through the NIL Go program and you went over the number, so you didn't report them, which is how we're going to track the cap, etc. All these things happen. And because Nike did that, yes, you are going to lose 15 and you're going down to 100. Here's the thing. Even if that's the reason that it happened, Dan Lanning now has 15 fewer guys than Ohio State and Michigan State and Iowa.
Is the number really 115? Or did you
I believe no. I believe it. I believe it is. I believe it is.
That's a lot for. I'm just saying.
There are teams now that have north of 140 guys on it. I mean, this is not. Like, that's lower than it has been in years gone by. Used to be obviously scholarship limits.
I'm skeptical, but, I can look it up just as easy as you can.
So the thought here for me, because McAfee asked the question of Pete Thamel yesterday. Sorry, I forgot who he was talking to. He asked the question yesterday of Pete Thamel. Effectively, what happens if one of these rules are violated? And Thamel's answer was like, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know that anybody else is going to know the answer to that. I don't know that anybody else is going to tell you the answer to that. By the way, the old scholarship limit, this is not roster limit, was 85. But you could have as many guys on the team as you wanted.
Well, I looked up the average is between 85 and 105, and the most usually is around 110. I just thought 145.
Okay, so I was a little over the mark there.
I mean,
But the number is unimportant, more so the number relative to everybody else. If you tell Dan Lanning he's going from 85, there are 105 is your roster limit. You have 105 guys on the team. If you tell Dan Lanning that he's going from 105 to 90 and Ohio State has got 105, there's an inherent advantage there for Ohio State. And it's not just about the guys you dress on game day, because Ryan Day himself has said this. It's about guys you have available for practice. It's about guys that you have available to run your scout team and train only to be the scout team this week. We're taking these 20 dudes on the roster, and for the next 2 weeks, all they're doing is learning Kirk Ferentz offense, so that in 2 weeks when we play Iowa, and it's practice week for Iowa, I've got an Iowa offense out there that knows that team inside and out, right? But you don't have that anymore. That's an inherent disadvantage. I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but it's a big deal. Regardless of the hypothetical punishments I'm coming up with here, the point is, when it is time for the commission to look and say, school XYZ University violated this new rule put in place by the commission, they got to come down heavy-handed. And they have, unlike the NCAA, they have, if the schools all sign this proposed agreement, they all have signed up to accept that reality. You have to bring it down immediately so that no one has the guts to play in the gray area and risk it at all. You need to, with violation number 1, whoever it is, whenever it is, violation number 1 needs to be a late 80s SMU caliber punishment. Not forever, but 5 years, 10 years, right? 10 years, you can't compete in the college football playoffs. That is going to kill a program and make them start at base 1 when they get out of the basement. And I think that's the way it's got to be handled. I do have a few more responses to a few more things that McAfee asked Thamel, and Thamel responded to yesterday, including the biggest one of all, which I will tell you coming up in the next hour of the show. When we come back, Audio Blitz, got a bunch of good audio to play for you today on the program, so stick around for that. All of that coming up after the great one blows your mind with this Sports Flash.
Starting with Rob's favorite baseball team, the Atlanta Braves dropped a game to Milwaukee 4-1 last night. Grant Holmes took the loss, allowing 5 hits and 3 runs through 5.1 innings. But striking out 9 in the effort, Atlanta had 8 hits in the game, but only 4 at-bats with runners in scoring position. NCAA President Charlie Baker told collegiate administrators yesterday the House versus NCAA settlement helped the organization avoid bankruptcy. Baker said the inability of college sports to change over the years put the entire enterprise at risk. That and the Big Ten and the SEC getting really big, I think. In their effort to replace the fired Tom Thibodeau, the New York Knicks have reached out to Houston and Minnesota requesting interviews with coaches Ime Udoka and Chris Finch, but both requests were denied, according to ESPN. That's surprising. I thought everyone wanted to work in New York. Hour number 3 of the Rob Brown Show is next, right here on The Fan, Upstate.
The big focus in America today is on your health, and more people are looking beyond pills and steroids and surgery. Hey, it's Charlie James for QC Kinetics. At QC Kinetics, they've been on the cutting edge of this medical revolution since 2018. Using regenerative medicine, they've helped tens of thousands of people get lasting joint pain relief using natural treatments that harness your body's own healing power. The truth is, regenerative medicine used to be an alternative treatment, but now it's mainstream. Their well-respected protocols include potent and powerful cellular-level treatments to revitalize and restore damaged joint tissue. They're not masking the pain. They're going after the very source of it. Yes, you can say goodbye to that chronic pain and live your best life. Learn more about this revolutionary treatment and get a free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now at 864-448-3772. That's 864-448-3772 in Greenville and in Nashville. 864-448-3772. QC Kinetics.
At Hub's Beef Spark Burgers, every game is a full-course feast for fun. Burgers, baseball, and members. Grab a seat and dig in, where fun is always on the menu. Grab your tickets now at HubsBeefSparkburgers.com.
If you're 55 and up, T-Mobile has plans built just for you. 2 lines of unlimited for just $30 a line. That's 45% savings compared to Verizon and AT&T. But don't just take our word for it.
It's not just the savings they get with our T-Mobile plan. It's always going from all these other things.
It's not just the savings.
We love it. Switch today and get 2 free 5G phones like the Motorola Edge with Turbo Power Charge that gives you power for the day in just 15 minutes. And customers 55 and up can get 2 lines of talk, text, and data for only $30 a line. Go to T-Mobile.com/55 to learn more. With 24 monthly bill credits and 2 new lines without a full well-qualified customers plus tax fees and $35 per line connection charge. Credit limit and balance due. Pay off earlier. Cancel contact messages. $5 per line without auto pay. Including 400 required. 25% off 2 lines
tell me you didn't hear it.
What's that?
I'm hoping that Mark didn't hear that promo was. I mean, it wasn't out. It's within the. But anyway.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate. 2 hours remaining and plenty to get to. We're going to take another look at NBA Finals game number 3 coming up here in a few minutes from now. We'll talk more about the House v. NCAA settlement. Some interesting questions being asked over the past couple of days about what is going to come next. I will tell you that I've had 2 conversations within the last day. One of them is a gentleman by the name of Matt Hand. Matt is an attorney and a founder of the NIL agency Alta Sports Management. He has been very involved in the NCAA rules and regulations, as well as keeping his eye very closely on what has happened since and into the settlement. Matt is going to join the show later this week. I have also had a conversation with another gentleman who is the Dean of Communication, or excuse me, Dean of Law. Norm O'Reilly is the Dean of Law at the University of New England, and he is very invested in college sports and the legislation around it as well. So we're going to try to get both of these guys booked in the next couple of days and get a little bit more of an educated look on both the player NIL side of it as well as the legal side of it over the next couple of days. And as soon as I get them booked and in a time slot, I will let you know when that happens. It is 8:02 in the morning. This is the period of time where we do the audio blitz. This is the best audio we have picked up since the last time that we did the audio blitz. The great one and I, because this is not just an all the sports show, but it's also just us being us on the radio, have had plenty of conversations about things like Bigfoot and aliens and crop circles, etc., etc. Behind the curtain, Rob Brown, not a believer in ghosts. Okay? I don't think they're real. I think most ghost stories have some sort of explanation behind them. It's just that we have a marked curiosity about the unknown. You know who does believe in ghosts? And I learned this yesterday. Kendrick Perkins, you know, Big Perk, former NBA player, now an NBA talking head for ESPN. K Perk was on the Road Trippin' podcast a couple of days ago. And he was traveling, obviously, for the NBA Finals. And they had a question for him that turned into a K-Perk ghost story.
You staying in that haunted hotel?
No. What's that place called in Milwaukee? The Fister?
The Fister.
True story. I'm staying in the Fister with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I go to dinner, I come back, bathroom light come on. Bam. I'm like, oh, maybe that's something, you know what I'm saying, sensor base or whatever, I move or something. So I go in there, I turn it off. 30 minutes later, the light come on again. I'm like, oh, this. I look at my phone, Reggie Jackson, who was like, you know, one of my little homies at the time, he calling. He like, hey, bro, man, there's weird stuff going on in my room. I'm like, bro, I was just about to say I was about to tell you the same damn thing. No lie, Reggie comes to my room. I order him one of those little beds. You know what I'm saying? You know how they bring the roller beds in there? We had a sleepover. All the lights.
This is...
Stop it.
K Perk said that during his days as an NBA player, there is a hotel in Milwaukee. It's called the Pfister Hotel, Pfister Hotel. And it has a reputation amongst professional athletes. Take a minute and just go look it up. Reputation amongst professional athletes is being haunted. Yet, hilariously, teams just keep booking their travel days to Milwaukee at this hotel. My man K Perk said the bathroom light kept coming on. Reggie said weird stuff was happening in his room. It got to them so much that a grown-ass man NBA player asked for a cot so that he could have a sleepover with another grown-ass man NBA player. Not just a grown-ass man NBA, Kendrick Big Perkins.
All right, here's the thing. First of all, I do believe in things unseen. Just because I haven't seen a ghost doesn't mean they don't exist. But the other thing is, if you are at a place like that and you are afraid of ghosts, you're going to pick the biggest guy on the team to go stay in his room. So that's not a bad move on his part. And here's the other thing, like the Pfister Hotel and other places that famously are haunted, we've seen enough behind-the-scenes thing. You can make a light switch come on. You can do things like that to mess with people. I would love to be the guy working there doing that, messing with everyone, causing, breathing noises in the vents, things like, all that stuff could be debunked and could be figured out if they wanted to. They stay there because they want to be scared. That's why they book that.
There was not, I think last year, and I can't.
It's like riding an amusement park ride. It's the same thing.
There was an MLB player last year, and I cannot remember. I think it was MLB. It may have been an NBA player, but there was a player last year from one of the big four, and I'll have to go look during the break and see if I can figure out who it was. But there was a player who said that every time his team goes to Milwaukee, he gets fined because he will not stay in that hotel. He gets an Airbnb or a condo for himself and anybody who doesn't want to stay there, and he stays away from the team. He's like, I take thousands of dollars in fines every time we go to Milwaukee because I will not stay in that hotel. I do not care if it costs me my entire game check. I'm not staying in that hotel. This is like a thing of legend. Seeing K Perk's big behind say, no, I needed a night buddy because I was absolutely not doing that is hilarious to me.
Also from Kendrick Perkins' point of view, you have someone lesser with you to throw to the ghost so you can get away.
Also, if you believe in ghosts, does size of person matter? You can't fight a ghost. What are you going to do, punch the ghost? If it's a ghost, it's irrelevant.
It's just like the fat guy strategy during a zombie apocalypse. It's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, but a zombie, I can punch it and fight.
But
a ghost is immaterial, ethereal. You can't. What are you going to swing at it? It's not going to do anything.
Also run away and fat guy gets caught because he's fat guy. But in this case, you throw the smaller guy to the ghost and you get out of the room.
Isn't the whole premise of a ghost that it can't touch or be touched? Like, isn't that the thing? I don't know.
Not according to Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. Although Whoopi Goldberg was involved, and it's kind of weird if you really think about it. But still.
CBS Mornings had an interesting story about a lawsuit that has been filed against the Colorado Rockies.
Colorado man was hit in the right eye by a foul ball and is now suing the Colorado Rockies, claiming the team is unwatchably bad, and that's why he wasn't paying attention, in part. Timothy Rockwell says he was hit while sitting in a luxury suite during one of the many boring games. This one was against the New York Yankees. It was 2023. In the lawsuit, his lawyers argue that the stadium has some architectural elements, including an overhang that limits the ability of people to see objects coming from the field. But the suit also claims, this is what's getting a lot of attention.
This is rich.
Poor performance on the field means many spectators are not paying attention to the game in play. Rockies have not commented on the lawsuit, but in that year, they did lose 100 games.
Now, I do want to be abundantly clear. This is 100%. Okay, let me take that back. It is not a frivolous lawsuit because if they do say that the architecture of the stadium puts fans in danger, he could technically win this suit. But I do not think that the reason that was included for anything else than as a way for a fan to make a point that your team sucks and I hate you.
All right, this suit is so dumb, okay? If the team's so bad, why are you there? I mean, if it's so boring, why are you there? Did someone make you go there? Do you work there? You could say, well, I got free tickets. It doesn't mean you had to take them.
Let's be clear here.
Why is that guy there?
I do want to point out you're taking the lawsuit too seriously. I do not think that this is a lawsuit filed.
I'm looking at the standpoint from the judge or from the other people. Like,
No. What I'm saying is you shouldn't, because it's never going to get there. This lawsuit was filed as a double middle finger to the Rockies.
Doesn't it cost? Well, maybe not. I mean,
if you are sitting in a luxury box at an MLB game,
no, I was
going to
say, does it cost money to file something like that?
But if you're sitting in a suit and net, you might be willing to throw the money away because of that. Peter Gilbert is a movie director / cinematographer. He films movies and stuff. He was on the set of a movie back in the mid-90s, and he told, I think, a spectacular Michael Jordan story on the Sports Consiglieres podcast.
He was doing a film in Chicago, and I was in the scene. It's called Blink, and it was with Madeline Stowe. And there's a scene where it's at the old Chicago Stadium, and the scene is basically a blind woman and her best friend. Her best friend is describing to the blind woman how great Michael Jordan is as a player during the game. I'm underneath the basket, and I've got a huge camera with me, not the normal camera. Yeah. And as they're warming up, Jordan comes over to me and he goes, "So what's the deal?" And I go, "You're in a movie. We're making a movie." He goes, "Oh, am I getting paid?" And I go, yeah. Do you know how much? I said, I heard 30 grand. And he goes, oh, what do they want me to do? And I said, dunk, because basically they just really wanted a couple dunks. Yeah. So he said, right before the game started, he walked over to me and he said, just stay on the rim for the first 3 shots. And he just came down. Times. I'm not kidding. That whole game, underneath the basket, he would shout to me what he was going to do. And Alonzo Mourning, started talking trash to him, which was not, the trash was hilarious. It was the old Charlotte Hornets. So it was, Larry Johnson and his grandmama days and all, so you can imagine the banter and all that stuff. And, but Mourning really started talking trash to him. So he was inbounding the ball under the basket, and he turned to me, and he's on camera. He turned to me and he goes, "I'm going to throw the ball into Pippen." And he's screaming it so that Mourning hears it. And Pippen's going to throw it back to me, and I'm going to dunk on that, mother. Excuse me. Right. And sure enough, that was the play, and that's the shot in the movie.
You got to have a special breed of that dog in you to not just say, I'm going to dunk on that mother bleeper, but to yell it out in front of that mother bleeper and to yell it out to a cameraman so that he can film you dunking on that mother bleeper, and then to do it so effectively that dunk on that mother bleeper ends up in a movie immortalized forever.
I'm curious if the money amount was not to Jordan's liking. Would that have happened?
This was the 1990s.
Oh, no. If it was less than 30,000.
Oh, gotcha.
If they said, 2,000, would he have done that? Because I don't think he would have.
$2,000? I ain't dunking on nobody. You're getting layup city tonight, boys.
Right. An errant pass is coming right into that camera.
Hand switch layups, just straight up right-handed bunny hop layups. That's all you're getting out of me. No, that's 100%.
He passes it to Paxson or Kerr, whoever's on it, just every single time.
Yeah, big night for Steve Kerr from the corner that evening. Jordan drives to the hole again. Oh, he passes. That is his 24th assist this evening. Jordan has recorded 0 points, but has 48 points worth of assist tonight. That's incredible, dude. Like, in order to reach the point where you can not only tell that story about Mike, but have Mike behave in such a way that he can give you that story to tell, you've got to effectively be Mike. You got to be like Mike, Barry Bonds, Tom Brady.
That's
Like
the-
the
that's the
list of
thing.
athletes who can pull that aura farming off is short.
Who is not believing that story? I mean, I absolutely believe the story. The only way I would have not believed the story is if that dollar amount would have been lower.
When I heard that, and I need you to know, I didn't even consider that until quite literally this exact moment. I heard that story this morning. I found that clip this morning. And the second that story was over, headcanon for me. Automatically was like, yep, that happened. That's true. To the point that I have to I have to go find this movie now. I've never seen this movie. I don't know this story. I've never, or this movie. I don't know the actors that are in it. I don't know a damn thing about it.
So I believe it was like Oscar nominated, so you would think that would be right up your wheelhouse.
I got nothing. I know nothing about this movie, and I will tell you now that at some point today, I am going to find it. I'm going to be honest. I'm probably not going to watch the movie. Like, I don't even know that. I mean, I guess I'm to some degree interested in it, but I don't know anything about it. I'm going to go find this movie. I'm going to 3 times speed fast forward through this movie just to find that dunk so that I can watch it in the context of that story because that's incredible.
There are other movies with that title, so you're going to have to search for it, I guess.
I mean, I can't imagine. Like, he says one of the actresses' names, so that's got to make it a little easier.
He said Madeline Stowe.
Sure. I feel like I should probably know who that is, but don't. So that's probably on me a little bit. But I'll find it. Because a guy like MJ is the only type of guy that you can hear that story about and automatically go, every word that Peter Gilbert just said is true. Every word of it is true, accurate, and correct. I will question none of it because it's Mike. So I'm going back to find it. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, the most compelling sporting event that will take place this weekend may not be the Stanley Cup as much as I love it. May not be the NCAA baseball College World Series, even though I love it. May not be the NBA Finals, even though I love it. The most compelling sporting event this weekend might be a golf tournament. And the reason why is because the boys are going to hate their lives for 2 days. And there's not much I love more than seeing a superhuman athlete look normal. I'm going to tell you why. And I think get you to where you want to watch the U.S. Open this weekend, too, next on The Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
I'm going also.
Beautiful. We'll be right back, guys. Don't go nowhere. Kukoc gets the ball. We should have made a Tony Kukoc reference. That's all.
I didn't know what year. I didn't. Yeah. So I mean, I did. I get
right
my,
back. we are kind of blank or, kind of focusing, I guess, on sports that maybe aren't spending a ton of time in the limelight. But the Rob Brown Show is in every sports show. We're going to talk about every sports. And golf is a sport. I don't care what you say, Diesel. It's a sport. Now,
it's a leisure activity.
It's a sport
that anyone can pick up and learn and compete at.
Yes, because no one can learn how to shoot a basketball. So it's definitely not a sport. It's a
Yeah,
leisure
but
activity.
you can just go out and start golf now. If you were just starting golf now and get a tour card and make it on the tour. One thing you couldn't do is start basketball now and end up on an NBA team.
No, I could not earn a card if I played every day.
That's according to
twice a
your
day.
talent. And that has nothing to do with the story.
You have zero idea how good these guys are.
I have
zero idea how good they
I
are.
don't remember their names, but I've been around some people who started playing and then started getting into some local tournaments and worked their way in.
Sure. To what level? Because I can go play in a U.S. Open qualifier today. If I got the money and I put myself into it, I can go play for a U.S. Open.
Again, it's not my fault you're not talented enough to do that. But there are some people out there who could. And I'm not being disparaging. There are a lot of people who aren't talented enough to do it. But you could go out there. Someone listening right now could go, you know what? I'm going to take up golf. And they could go out and they could be on the tour. They could be that good. They could earn their way onto it. It would take some work to get there, but they could do it. You can't just go, I'm going to play basketball. I'm going to be in the NBA and work your way onto it that way. You can't do that with any major sport, but you can do it with the leisure activity known as golf.
Joey B., who is a dramatically better golfer than I by leaps and bounds, and I were at the Korn Ferry Tournament, the BMW Pro-Am, on Sunday. And I am telling you right now that if I dedicated every hour of every day for the next 5 years of my life to doing nothing but playing golf, I would not be able to compete with the guys who are playing on the third level tour of the PGA Tour. But that's not what I want to drive at here. What I want to drive at
Way
is
to get featured again, Joe. Good job.
I mean, he's telling the truth.
Oh, he's agreeing with you.
And he's right for doing so.
Well, no, you're wrong and Joe's wrong.
Yes.
And anyone who agrees with both of you, you guys are all wrong. You're absolutely wrong. It's a leisure activity. Someone can go out, learn how to play, get good at it, and make it to the tour. You can't do that. Can you do that in the NBA, Rob?
Lonzo, you can't do it with golf.
Can you do it in the NBA,
You
Rob?
can't do it with golf.
Can you do it in the NBA, Rob?
No,
Thank you.
but
Thank
that
you.
doesn't mean you can just
Thank you.
do it with golf.
So you agreed I was right.
No.
Thank you.
Yes, on that one point.
Thank you.
But that's not what we're talking about. If the topic of conversation was, can Rob make the NBA? The answer is no, dummy,
But
obviously
Rob
not.
could make a golf tour.
Okay.
Absolutely, he could if he were good. If he went out and applied himself and worked really hard on his game, especially since Rob grew up on a golf course. Rob knows how to play golf. He got out there and he really worked at it and decided, I'm doing this. Listen, if Diesel continued to play as well as I've heard he was playing, he could be out there. Anyone could do that because golf is not a sport. It's a leisure activity. I'm glad that you defend it, though, and I'm glad you want to yell and fight about it, but it doesn't mean you're right.
No, I will say definitively, and I don't use this phrase wrong often, you're dead wrong.
Nope,
You're just wrong.
I'm not though.
And anybody
I'm not,
who
though.
has watched a single tour event in person will tell you you are wrong. But that's not what we're getting at here. What we're getting at here is the reason that this week's U.S. Open at Oakmont is an event that, even if you're not a golf guy, I'd encourage you to tune in and watch. And by the way, Steven said golf is the same as bowling, a leisure activity. Fine. I'm also going to tell you right now, I could go spend the rest of my life bowling. I'm never making the PBA. The dudes that do it are just a different breed of cat. But
it's skill, and you are not patient, and you get angry too fast, and you throw things.
yes.
So, I mean,
and that definitely doesn't impact golf.
but I have seen you, when you really want to do something, apply yourself and do it well. So if you wanted to, for golf or for bowling, you could be the man. And you would get sponsors because you already got people behind you. If you get out there and you apply yourself, you could prove me right, but you won't because you don't want me to be right. If you wanted me to be right, you would get out there and you would do it.
You want to be the right, you go make the PGA Tour, Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, mister.
Call me Sad Gilmore. All right. Oakmont is this weekend, the U.S. Open, and I am stupid, dummy excited about it. Yeah. And the reason why is because PGA Tour golfers are going to be made to look real dumb this weekend. Oakmont takes a special level of pride in making this place impossible. The first cut rough, that is, if you miss the fairway by a couple of inches, is 5 inches grass standing straight up, to the point that Oakmont actually has an entire routine that they put into play only for this week to make sure that this golf course is nary impossible to score well on. The Golf Channel did an interview with the groundskeeper at Oakmont. And I want you to listen to him. And again, I know that we are literally talking about grass growing.
Please be Bill Murray. Please.
It is not Bill Murray. Here is the clip.
On Oakmont, we went from, normally cutting it at 2 1/4 inches to trying to get to a uniform 5-inch standard rough for the championship. You have to slowly increase your height of cut. So if you just, let 2 1/4 inch rough just grow to 5 inches, you're going to have no structure of that plant. It's going to lay over and you're going to have fly lies, and it's really not going to be penal. At the end of the day, you want the ball to sit down in there. That's the real challenge. Say, you raise by, a 1/2 inch and you cut 4 times like that, and the crown of the plant's actually raising, and it's going to get acclimated to cutting at that height. Then you go up again. A lot goes into it.
So that is what we want. Ball starting to nestle down here. Grass will get more and more upright here over the next, call it, month here leading into the championship. But yeah, we'll change up directions on our rough mowing as well. Push it one way, push it the other way, and again, promote upright growth. So the ball has the best chance to nestle down a little bit. That's what we want. Yep.
Now,
wait. So you're going to tell me that wasn't two stoners talking?
No,
because I heard intellectual stoner, which we've all been around, who somehow thinks he's smarter after he's high, and then you get this plain out stoner, which was the last guy. That's two stoners talking about grass and how high it is.
It is not, and what it tells me is you've never been around lawn guy. You've never been around the guy who just, his lawn is his thing. That it's pride and joy. It is his hobby.
First of all, you just forget, or you just don't pay attention to me. Me and Michael Stathakis both have talked to you about patterns, about making patterns. So I am a lawn guy, okay? And it's also my name. So you're just wrong.
When I say lawn guy, I'm not talking about the guy that figured out if I drive that way and then move over 5 feet and come back this way, I create a pattern. I am talking about the guy that understands the composition and chemical makeup of the soil underneath the grass.
Bruh, it's about the chemical makeup of
That's
the grass.
not stoner stuff. That's grass guy stuff. And grass guy ain't no joke. Now,
you realize you're getting angry about grass?
I'm not angry about it.
Okay, all right, because you seem kind of angry.
I have been in this industry 17 going on 18 years, and I will acknowledge that I am undertaking perhaps the most difficult segment of my radio career underway, and that is literally making grass growing an interesting topic. But damn it, I'm good at this, and I'm going to make a run at it.
Okay, I'll back off and let you do your thing. If you applied yourself...
Nope, stop it. No. No. The most difficult challenge of my entire 17 radio year career is going to be making grass growing interesting. Challenge accepted. Let's do the damn thing. The reason that this is interesting is because what this is going to do to Scotty Scheffler this weekend, what this is going to do, hell, to every PGA Tour golfer. I've been watching the clips out of Oakmont. These fellas are walking next to the fairway, and they're just dropping. Not having a drive at 100 miles an hour, fly straight down into the grass. They're just dropping the ball into the grass. And it disappears. It's gone. They have to quite literally get down with their hands and move grass around to find the golf ball. And here's the fun thing. Once you get down there and you dig with your hands and you find the golf ball, you can't touch it. You can't move it. You got to hit it from that spot, which means that all of the things that we talk about on other courses, driving accuracy, finding the fairway, being aggressive but not stupid. A lot of other courses, you can be aggressive and you can be stupid and you can end up with a lucky bounce and be forgiven. You cannot at this golf course. If you are stupid and if you put it into the thick stuff, your life is going to suck for the next 1 to 3 shots that it takes you to get out of this thing. To me, one of my favorite things in sports is watching athletes at the highest level struggle. It's engaging to me. It's entertaining to me.
So you're saying you like to see people fail? Does
Yes.
that make you feel better about you when you see other people fail?
No.
I want to see people succeed and reach their highest level and stay there.
Stop being that guy.
What?
Stop being that
I
guy.
absolutely do. I don't.
When I
don't root
watch-
for the downfall of people.
Every year when we get to the Olympics, there is a funny topic of conversation that comes up, which is we should put a regular Joe into these events to show what absolute freaks of nature these people are. The concept is when you watch freaks of nature compete with other freaks of nature, it becomes difficult, if not impossible, to actually understand how gifted and talented these people are at their thing. Because if this guy goes out there and he shoots a 17 under, and then there's another guy who shot 16 under and 15 under and 14 under, they just look like a bunch of guys who are pretty good at golf. They won't tell you that if I go out there, I'm shooting 212. They won't tell you that if you took that guy and you took the best golfer that you know in your life, your club pro or that one buddy who's retired and he plays 2 rounds a day every day forever, the best golfer that you know, and if you put the best golfer you know out there, he's going 29 over on the same course. It gets lost. You can't find that context. The reason that this golf tournament at Oakmont this weekend is going to be so good is because they make this course impossible unless you're perfect. If you do anything less than perfection, you're going to get your ass kicked by this golf course. And it is going to, in my opinion, really separate the Scotty Schefflers, the best of the best, from everybody else who's just really good. And it is going to put into perspective how dramatically better these guys are at this game than anybody you've ever known in your life.
Are those freaks of nature you're talking about? Are they genetic freaks?
Some of them.
Okay.
Some of them. Bryson DeChambeau is.
Because I've pictured that entire last segment, you as Scott Steiner, and I can't get it out of my head.
I'm working on the dyed goatee. This golf tournament is going to make these people look like mortals. It is going to put into perspective what they really are against the normal average Joe.
All right, I just got to say something. People don't watch to see people look normal. They watch to see them do things that they can't do. Why do I want to watch someone be more like me? I want to watch them do something that I can aspire to. That's the part I don't get.
The reason why is because you can get lost when you are watching 38 people do what you can't do, how impressive them doing what you can't do is. And now when you watch them struggle to do the things that you can't do that they do routinely, when you watch them struggle and have to remind themselves, oh, this game's hard. This is not an easy thing to do. That's why I'm on the PGA Tour and 99.9% of people ever born will never even be in an event. To watch them struggle and have to adapt, and especially in golf mentally to that is beyond entertaining to me. Let's take a break. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Guys need to stop. You're having too much fun. Golf is serious stuff. Go back to your shanties.
Go back to your mobile home.
All right, I'm trying to figure out what she's wearing. What is in the middle right there? There's something. Well, it's actually on. That was weird. It's like, oh, there's a stain on this, but I'm going to make it look stylish.
Download the Odyssey app, search the Fan Upstate, and listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate.
Up to the minute upstate traffic, really nothing that severe. South on I-85, it's still very, very slow. South on Highway 101, as you move west, Highway 14, heading down towards Pelham Road, and the problem is off to the shoulder, but it's still quite heavy there. North on I-85 at Pelham Road, you got one lane blocked off there, stalled out vehicle. I'm gonna say you're back up there. It's still very, very slow back beyond I-385.
By the way, if I die over here, doesn't mean you won. Just want you to know that.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay.
Why, you having to adapt to actually listening to people speak English, or is it just jet lag from that long? I'm guessing that's a long flight.
Jet lag. We came back from Europe. I was a kid and it killed me. I remember that well.
Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the relief
He seems really mad about that. You can go ahead and tell him, Joe, that I said that, but he seems really mad. Just having a little fun. Can't we just have a little fun? By the way, I absolutely believe what I said about the golf thing. It's not a bit. It's not a joke. It's what I believe. Not me being contrarian, since no one around here actually knows what contrarian means.
The best moments in life weren't meant to sit in a box, gathering dust in the attic, or stuck on outdated tapes. They're meant to be seen, heard, and shared again and again. That's why Legacy Box exists, to help you preserve and relive your family's history. Imagine being able to text a video of your grandparents to your kids, or share a childhood memory with your siblings in seconds. Legacy Box makes it that easy. Fill your Legacy Box with all your...
If he doesn't come back, I'm going to play crickets till he comes back.
in Tennessee, where we digitize everything by hand. And in just a few weeks, we'll send back your originals, digitized, preserved, and stored in the cloud. So you can easily stream, download, and share your memories anytime.
I don't know what numbers you're talking about, dude.
Of families that have trusted Legacy Box. Go to legacybox.com/value for 50%.
You don't talk about numerology, are you? Because that's weird.
Value for 50% off.
From the Ingles Market Studio.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. 844-326-3663 is the text line, the Hub City Spartanburger text line. If you'd like to get at us in that direction, you are welcome to do so. You can also use that number to call into the radio broadcast if you wish to do so. 844-326-3663. I have, to the chagrin of many a listener, and I must apologize and make amends, ignored the text line largely so far this morning. So let's do a little cleanup on some of that, some of the things you guys had texted to the radio program so far this morning, dating back to the early portion of the show. Texter said about U.S. soccer, Rob, holy smokes, that game. You are right to raise the alarm. We don't want to be a total embarrassment next year as World Cup host. Buddy, I'm embarrassed now.
Alarm.
I mean, it's fair. I'm embarrassed
It's the only alarm
now.
I have. I'm sorry.
It is. But it's not, again, it's not the loss. It was our C&D team taking on their AB team. The loss is fine. It's a complete and total lack of effort or concern. And if that's the best we've got and that's the effort we're going to get out of it, then nobody on the first roster is going to be concerned about their spot on the team. And if you get to a point where you're not concerned about your spot, and I mean this in anything you do, if you're not concerned about your spot, you're not going to put in your best. I have told you before, I am well aware that the gentleman down the hall that makes the decisions about this radio station probably gets 100 demos a day from people who want my spot. And I recognize that the day he calls me in the office and goes, Rob, I feel like you're slacking. Rob, I feel like your show's going downhill. Rob, I feel like you ain't got that fire anymore. I'm gone. Because if he doesn't put the best thing on the air, he's going to lose his spot. So, yeah, if that's the best we got, nobody's worried about the spot. What are we going to, what? Like what after that? Texture said, Rob, wait, I thought Greg was the problem. No. Greg was a problem. But if you've been listening to me, I have also been calling out a cultural problem within the U.S. Soccer Federation for a very long time. We just do not either A, understand, or B, care how the rest of the world does it. And I understand that the American philosophy, hell, I subscribe to it, is bleep the way the rest of the world does it. We're going to do it our way. And I'm good with that. But man, if Ken Griffey Jr. rolls in to tell you how to hit a baseball, probably a good idea to listen to him. If Scotty Scheffler says, here's how you drive, probably a good idea to listen to him. If Tom Brady says, here's how you read a defense, probably a good idea to listen to him. Probably a good idea to listen to people, to steal from them when they are the best at what they do. I'm not saying you have to do it exactly their way, but at least learn the foundation of how they got there, and we just refuse to do it. We treat it as if it is nothing more than a for-profit enterprise. And if you do it that way, you're just never catching Germany, Spain, Italy, Brazil, France, the United Kingdom, et cetera, et cetera. And you're going to make those of us who want to catch those teams never, ever, 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 ever be able to live up to that and enjoy that success. Joey B says, U.S. soccer puts the ass in embarrassment. Put that on a T-shirt. Put that on a T-shirt. Texas said, Rob, does this new plan provide true NIL? Because if so, I would say 99% of college athletes have zero name, image, or likeness worthy of any company actually benefiting from them. Yes, you can still sign what are being referred to under the House v. NCAA settlement. You can still sign third-party independent NIL deals. If an athlete can get a deal from Bob's Used Cars, they can sign that deal. That is not counted against a team's revenue sharing cap. So if Lenore Sellers gets a $100,000 deal from Bob's Used Cars, and if that deal is approved by the NIL Go platform, effectively the new College Sports Commission's NIL clearinghouse, if that deal is approved, and this is one of the big questions we're going to be talking about coming up here in just a few minutes on the show, they have put into play, is this a justifiable deal, and is it fair market compensation? And my question is, who the hell's in charge of making that decision? Who gets to say that? Pete Thamel brought up a very good point on the McAfee show this week when he said, let's say a kid comes from nothing, sleeping on the floor in high school, right? Relies on other people to get him to and from practices. And he goes, and a school says, or a company, a third-party independent company says, we want to offer you $1 billion in NIL. Do you think for a second that kid's not going to lawyer up if the NCAA, if the College Sports Commission says that is not what we consider fair market compensation? Because I subscribe, as we have talked on the show about before, you know what your market price is? Whatever somebody's willing to give you for your good product and or service. That's market. I've used the example before. If I've driven downtown and there's a rusted old bucket of bolts 1972 Corvette Stingray on the side of the road, that's Rob's dream car. That's the one he wants more than anything else. That's the last car I will ever buy. So if I see a rusted old 72 Stingray on the side of the road and it's got a sign on it that says $50,000, most of you are going to drive by and go, that piece of crap's not worth 50 grand. But if I say I will buy it for 50 grand, the market price of that car is 50 grand. So if an athlete comes from nothing, goes to college, and a business, Nike, says, we want to give you a $5 million a year deal as the QB of the Ducks, and the clearinghouse says, hey, we don't think that's fair market. No other quarterback is making anywhere near that amount of money. We reject this NIL deal. You can't take it. That kid's going to lawyer up on the quick, and I don't think there's going to be a shortage of lawyers willing to take that case on and say, whoa, you can't do that, right? That's an antitrust violation. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. But to answer your question, Texter, yes, athletes can still sign third-party independent deals. And this is a conversation ongoing about the revenue splits, for instance, right? Like the backup left tackle probably isn't going to get many NIL offers, but I got big news for you. That's just kind of how the real world works, man, right? Like that's just kind of how the real world works. Rob Brown is in a position as the host of this show that businesses call our salespeople and they say, hey, we would like to give you and Rob money for him to talk about our business on the radio. And then I get to say yes or no. I like this business, I'll do it. Or no, I don't trust this business, I won't do it. There are people here in this building who do a hell of a lot of work to make sure that I can come in here and Lonzo can come in here and we can push a button on a board and say words into a microphone and have people say, we would like to give them money to talk about us, please. And those people are never going to get an endorsement deal. The people who work twice as hard as we do are never going to get a business going, hey, so-and-so, I'd like to give you money to talk about my business. Unfortunately, that's just how the world works. And that's part of the thing that a lot of athletes will have to understand. If a swimmer and diver doesn't get an NIL deal, they don't get to say, hey, this isn't fair. I'm suing. It's up to the businesses if they want to endorse that guy or not. Texter said it was Mookie Betts who won't stay in the Pfister, the haunted hotel in Milwaukee. That is exactly who it was. Thank you, Texter. You are correct. I got to go find that clip. I'll find that clip and see if I can follow it. Texter said, Rob, Lonzo is rage baiting you and you're falling for it. It may be so. But Lonzo's also an influencer, and I can't have him having that influence on the kids. What I cannot have the kids believing is that they can do anything they put their mind to. No, you can't. No, you can't. Some things you just can't do, and that's okay.
Yeah, don't listen to Rob.
That's okay.
Put your mind to something. Put hard work into it. You may fail, but at least you gave it a shot. Don't go.
That's different.
don't
that's
go.
That's different.
Well, Rob says that I can't do it, so I'm just going to go play video games.
No, what I'm saying is, the harsh reality of life is that, no, you can't do everything you put your mind to. And that's okay. We can't live with our head in the clouds like everything's going to be great. If I just try real hard, I'll be a blank. Not necessarily. You've got to have the right build, the right gifts, the right talents, the right blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, some people are blank without trying. I'm just,
Corn Chip text, the show said I played around this weekend for the first time in 10 years with some buddies from college. Golf is hard. Yeah, no, I agree. It's remarkably hard. And unless you know the game of golf, it looks easy. Hit ball with stick, make ball go hole. I mean, sure, but that's the same philosophy as NASCAR. Go fast, turn left. I mean, yeah, at its core, that's what it is, but If you don't know what a chassis adjustment does, don't talk to me about how NASCAR is easy. Rob, if you just go out there and buy a
chassis
car,
adjustment. I'm just saying.
that's what I call my morning routine. It's a chassis adjustment. Don't tell me that if I just go buy a car and start driving and turning left, I'll be on the NASCAR circuit one day. No, I won't. That's not easy.
You need to point that out to the people out on I-85 and 385 because
that's not unfair. Texter said Lonzo is so incorrect. There is a huge difference between team sports and individual sports. Totally different. Anyone can make it into an individual sport. Doesn't mean they will have the talent to thrive. Yeah, I agree with that.
I did point out that, talent comes into play, but you can work your way into a lower level of something. Rob could be on whatever the lowest level of golf is right now if he wanted to. He absolutely could.
Rob could not compete with years of practice with kids playing college golf. I've watched them routinely. I'm not even in the
with
stratosphere.
That attitude, there's a lot of things you're never going to accomplish in life.
Which is the reality of life, man.
The reality of life, kids, is that you suck and you're never going to amount to anything.
Sometimes that's true. Sometimes there's a thing that you love and you just suck at it, and maybe you can get better at it. And I'm not saying that there's not some level of nobility in the struggle to be the best that you can be, but it is important to recognize that you can be the absolute best that you can be. And there's always going to be somebody that's going to kick your ass at that thing. That's just how life works.
And you're always probably going to be better than someone else.
Sure, but there ain't but 100 spots on the PGA Tour, and there's 500 million golfers.
Is that really all there is?
I don't know. I don't know what the official number is.
Yeah.
I mean, not really. You can't have many more than that in the tournament, or it ends up being
it depends on the tournament.
unrunnable.
Not everybody plays in every tournament.
Texter said, that's me, Buckeye Mike. Been in the turf business since 1998 down here in the South. Listen, Grass Guy is no joke. I'm talking grass guy that can look and smell. That
say
can
turf
smell
guy.
a
He
lawn.
said he's been in a turf business. Turf guy and grass guy are two different people.
I mean, artificial turf guy and grass guy. I'm fine with grass guy and turf guy being the same guy because grass is turf and turf is grass. Artificial turf is not. That's why it's artificial turf.
It's
Either
also
way,
stupid.
I want you to know, Buckeye Mike, and all the rest of you out there across America that are grass guys, I respect you infinitely. The level of just sheer scientific knowledge that you have to gain to be able to grow a good lawn is unbelievable. I'm a gardener, all right? I grow peppers every year. I put my pepper bed down about 3 weeks ago. My peppers, they're coming in great, by the way. I got 4 bell peppers already coming in.
YouTube series coming, Rob the Gardener. You need to check it out. Like, subscribe.
You can call me Gardener Guy. I got my peppers coming in. And I will tell you that I have learned more in the past 2 years, 3 years since I've become Pepper Guy about phosphates and calcium levels and different types of fertilizer and manure content and all. I've learned more about chemical in my soil around my peppers than I learned about chemistry in chemistry class back in the day. And all I've got is like 9 pepper plants growing. Guy who gets that Bermuda grass lawn so perfect that when you walk outside barefoot, you're like, nope, that's it. I just live outside on this grass now. I respect the bleep out of you, grass guy, because that's a level of commitment, drive, and dedication that I have not found about anything else in my life. Texter said, if Scotty Scheffler teaches you to drive, unintended double meaning on the drive there. Scotty wasn't driving, all right? I mean, he was driving, but like not illegally. Leave Scotty alone. Hashtag free Scotty Scheffler. Well, I guess he's been free.
He was
but
driving. He was trying to go around the thing, and then
he was trying to go exactly where he was supposed to go.
But he was driving.
And you got somebody a little overzealous in the moment, and then not wanting to admit, oh, I screwed up here. I get it. It happens. We all screw up. You just sent a multi-time PGA Tour champion to jail for no reason, but that's a different thing. Hey, 1 hour left to go. We'll hit it hard when we come back. Here's Lonzo, and I got to tell you, folks, if there was a professional sports flashers association, I promise Lonzo could make it with hard work and dedication. Listen to this.
Not true, but I do manage manure on a daily. Anyway, the Atlanta Braves dropped the game to Milwaukee 4-1 because I'm regular. It had nothing to do with what you're thinking. Grant Holmes took the loss, allowing 5 hits and 3 runs through 5.1 innings, but striking out 9 in the effort. Atlanta had 8 hits in the game, but only 4 at-bats with runners in scoring position. That's not good. You're not going to win when you do that. NCAA President Charlie Baker told collegiate administrators yesterday that the House versus NCAA settlement helped the organization avoid bankruptcy. Baker said the inability of college sports to change over the years put the entire enterprise at risk, but now they're employees and they're no longer student athletes, so yay. In their effort to replace the fired Tom Thibodeau, the New York Knicks have reached out to Houston and Minnesota requesting interviews with coaches Ime Udoka and Chris Finch, but both requests were denied, according to ESPN. Hour number 4 of the Rob Brown Show is next right here on The Fan Upstate.
The big focus in America today is on your health, and more people are looking beyond pills and steroids and surgery. Hey, it's Charlie James for QC Kinetics. At QC Kinetics, they've been on the cutting edge of this medical.
Sorry, Spike, I don't deal with specificity. I can't even say the word.
The truth is, regenerative medicine used to be an alternative treatment, but now it's mainstream. Their well-respected protocols include potent and powerful cellular-level treatments to revitalize and restore damaged joint tissue. They're not masking the pain. They're going after the very source of it. Yes, you can say goodbye to that chronic pain and live your best life. Learn more about this revolutionary treatment and get a free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now at 864-448-3772. That's 864-448-3772 in Greenville and in Nashville. 864-448-3772, QC Kinetics.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-285-2521. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call.
Here's how we know I should be quiet for the next hour, because he's left the room more today than he has in quite some time. I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm just trying to have debate and discourse and stuff. So when your fun is not everyone else's fun, do you just continue to have fun, or realize that people aren't having fun like you're having fun, so you stop having fun? Or do you only care about yourself having fun and you could care less about anybody else having fun because it's their fault because they don't have fun the way that you have fun? Just a question. Ever bring a flamethrower on a stealth mission? It's another stormtrooper thing.
Wonderful.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. The Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. 844-326-3776. 3663 is the number, 844-FANFONE if you want to jump on board. Talk a little baseball here for just a minute. No, I'm not going to talk about the Atlanta Braves for two reasons. Number one, they stink. Number two, I do not want to. Braves lose again last night to lose for the first time. They did win game one of the 3-game set on the road at Milwaukee. They have now dropped 11 out of 13. And just to put it into perspective, they are now 3 games behind the LA Angels, who you will remember spent the majority of the season without Mike Trout on the baseball field. That's where this team is as a whole. It's not great, Bob. Not great. So we're not going to talk about the Braves. I'd like to talk about something else instead. This is a conversation that has been coming up more and more frequently over the past couple of months, and that is the belief that before the 2026 season, we could end up with another Major League Baseball lockout. We could end up seeing players and owners walk away from the negotiating table without a new collective bargaining agreement in place. Now, many of us remember the last major lockout of Major League Baseball, and I'm talking about the one back in the 90s, the big one that effectively canceled an entire Major League Baseball season.
And nearly killed baseball.
Really did. I will tell you that even as a baseball guy, even as a baseball kid who played more baseball, despite basketball being my first love, played more baseball than any other sport as a cheer-in. And I was growing up loving baseball. I've told you a bunch of different stories about my youthdom as a baseball player. It is the origin point of my love of baseball as an adult, and the reason that my other show is a baseball show, or at least started as a baseball show. The last lockout, effectively as a child, and I may feel differently about it as an adult, because as a child, you don't care about money. Or at least not when it comes to other people's money. Like, yeah, if dad hands you a $5 to head into the gas station and pick up a big gulp in a Hershey bar, like it's the greatest day of your life. But you don't care about other people's money. And so all I knew when the big lockout in the 90s happened was that my favorite baseball players weren't playing baseball. And they weren't playing baseball for whatever reason, and I probably understood that it was about adult money stuff that I just could not understand at the time. But all I knew was that I loved baseball, and I would do anything to get out of the house and go throw a baseball around with the boys. And here were guys who got paid money to do what my parents had to sacrifice so much to let me do, what I had to give up other things that I also enjoyed doing to go do. They had the opportunity to do it, and they didn't want to take it. And it genuinely kind of killed off my love of baseball. And when it got to the point that I didn't want to watch baseball. Now, this is a theory. And I don't have kids, so I don't know. Maybe those of you that do will correct me here. But I imagine once you have kids, and especially when you have multiple kids, as my parents did, me and my younger brother. If you have multiple kids, and especially if you have kids that are active, they like to be doing stuff. They're in clubs, they have hobbies, they play sports, whatever the case might be. If you as a parent have a thing that you like to do, like say, I don't know, watch baseball. If your kids aren't into that thing, I imagine it makes it a lot harder for you to be able to truly stay dialed in with that thing. If you are a parent and your kid is not into the thing that you're into, I work under the assumption that it probably makes it a little more difficult for you to stay dialed into that thing. If you're a big wrestling fan and your kid's not a wrestling fan, you probably lose out on some wrestling time. Maybe you don't have to disconnect entirely, but like you can't be the there for every show fan you used to be. If you're a baseball fan and your kid doesn't like baseball, my suspicion is you probably don't get to watch as many Braves games or whatever as you did when you didn't have kids, or as many Braves games as people do whose kids end up sharing the love of that thing. If you're a Braves fan and you raise your kid up and your kid becomes a Braves fan, now you're watching baseball, but you're doing it with your kid. So you get to do your thing that you love, but you get to do it more because your kid loves to do that thing with you. So my suspicion is, and I can only speak anecdotally here, but my suspicion is that when that lockout happened and I was disheartened because all I ever wanted to do was play baseball. But then I watched my heroes, Major League Baseball players, decide that due to reasons that I at the time couldn't understand, did not want to play baseball. Something was more important to them than baseball. And it killed my love of baseball. And I didn't want to watch baseball. Then I imagine my father, who did like baseball, probably went, I can't watch as much baseball. And I will tell you, when the boys came back from the lockdown, I had checked out of baseball. So checking back into baseball, and again, I was a kid. But checking back into baseball was tough. That was tough to do. I had stepped away from something. This is, again, to go back to the TV euphemism. If you watch seasons 1 and 2 of a show and you really like it, and then for whatever reason, something comes up, you got a big life event, whatever, you don't watch season 3, it's a lot of work to get back and ready for season 4. And if you don't do that work to be ready for season 4, and season 4 starts, and season 4 gets halfway in, and so many things are happening, and you are hearing about season 4 storylines from social media or whatever, but you're not caught up on season 3, that's the point where most people start to walk away from that thing, right? You're like, oh, well, I'm so far behind, and I can't catch up, and I'll check in when it's all over. I imagine that. So Lonzo is correct. That lockout did immeasurable harm to Major League Baseball. And I think a large part of the reason is because of, probably to some degree, families like mine, where kids who love baseball suddenly kind of lost that passion for baseball because our heroes, who we thought lived, slept, eat, breathed baseball every day, turns out, no, they don't. Turns out they don't. They don't love baseball like we love baseball. And if they don't love baseball like I love baseball, why would I love them for loving baseball? So there is a conversation going on about a potential lockout to start the 2026 season, which could delay the season or, absolute obvious worst case scenario, cancel the 2026 season. And there is one major sticking point as to why that would happen. This is a clip from David Sampson's podcast. We've played him a couple of times over the past couple of weeks, and he is joined by baseball writer and reporter Ken Rosenthal.
I'm guaranteeing a lockout at the end of 26, but are you as certain as I am about that?
Oh, pretty much, yes. And I'm certain about it because the commissioner has already said in an article by Evan Drellick that a lockout can be a very useful thing. The owner's thirst for a salary cap has never been greater. There is a percentage of owners that are willing to shut down the sport to get what they want.
All you need is 8. I remind the audience, all you need is a block of 8. The question is, will there be enough owners to allow for missed games? You could come up with 8 teams pretty easily right now. And so what will be interesting to me is if it happens.
To me, it's ill-conceived in the mildest possible term I could use, ill-conceived. I could use a lot of other terms. $12 billion industry, why would you want to shut it down? You're not the NFL. You're not coming back so quickly in the eyes of the public. But all that said, if you have a salary cap, you're also going to have a salary floor. And there might be some lower revenue teams, small market teams that don't want a salary floor. That adds to the complexity of this for Manfred in trying to build a proper block of votes to get this thing done.
So And I do want to address one thing that that Joey B just said in the chat, which is there is a key difference. A strike, like in 94-95, is an action taken by the organization. In this case, the players. A lockout is an action taken by ownership. You are correct, Joey B, and I should go ahead and state that we are talking lockout here. That would be the owners locking out the players that want to go out there and play baseball. And the key sticking point here is, obviously, as mentioned there, the concept of instituting a salary cap in Major League Baseball. There are going to be some owners who very much want one. There will be some teams, the New York Mets, who have been willing over the past couple of years to sign ridiculous contracts. And there may be some teams that are on the fence, and it would be determined by some of the other factors. I point to, for instance, the LA Dodgers. The Dodgers right now have been able to stack the most immense amount of talent ever assembled on a single roster by a professional team. And the reason they've been able to do that is by deferring so much money over the years. We have talked about, for instance, Shohei Ohtani's contract. Shohei Ohtani's contract, which when it is all done and paid out is likely to be valued at, again, with inflation factored in and all that, north of $1 billion, is also stretched out over like 40 years. That man's going to be collecting paychecks from the Dodgers in his 70s, right? Like we all think that Bobby Bonilla Day is like a big thing that we all laugh and make jokes about. Shohei's going to be doing that for the Dodgers for years. Now, granted, Shohei Ohtani is probably going to end up bringing at least one or two more World Series to Los Angeles, so maybe they will consider that worth it. At that point, we'll find out. But that's a buttload of money. So I would add to what Joey B said about this being a lockout, not a strike. Over the past couple of years, and this is, once again, just my own perspective, but in my ever so humble yet frequently correct opinion, fans in 2025 are holding owners more responsible for their teams and their leagues than they ever have before. Fans are now calling the owner of the Pirates, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm blanking on the name right now, but the owner of the Pirates, a team that has walked into Paul Skeens, a guy who might go on to be one of the greatest to ever do it. He can't go to Pirates games anymore because when he shows up at his own team's games, the fans harass him relentlessly because of the fact that he's got everything in hand that he needs to have a successful and competitive ball club, but has refused to spend the money to do so. That's all it comes down to. The Rockies, same situation. They've got one of the most beautiful and traveled to ball clubs in America. They are absolutely a destination. Players would want to be there. They've had over the years good coaching. They've got a locked-in fan base. They've got everything they need to be successful, but the ownership of that program refuses to go out. They signed Chris Bryant, and that's pretty much the list. Right? And after Chris Bryant showed up and has had a bunch of injuries, I think he's only played in the, 5 seasons he's been there. I think he was only played at this point 1 season's worth of games. It didn't work out. They have not spent another dollar on a high-level free agent since then. Owners are getting booed out of their own stadiums now because they refuse to invest in the programs. So how this concept of a cap is structured is going to depend on whether or not they get the, again, 8 teams necessary to agree to a lockout to agree to a lockout. If they go with a salary cap, then they will have to, as mentioned by Ken Rosenthal, go with a salary floor. That is to say, teams cannot, however it's structured with deferred money and all that, teams cannot spend over X $100 million a year. But in return for that salary cap, there will be a salary floor saying teams must spend at least this much money per year. And owners like the ones in Pittsburgh, owners like the ones in Colorado, they may be against that concept, that idea, because owners of those teams, they own those teams not because they love baseball, but as financial investments. And requiring them to spend X amount of money out of their financial investment is something that they're probably not going to want to do because, they don't do that already. So my question mark is, while Manfred has said they're not afraid of a lockout, they are fine with the concept of a lockout, et cetera, et cetera. My question's going to be, as somebody who loves Major League Baseball and wants to see it trend up. By the way, viewership for MLB this year, it's up like 20% already. Now, granted, a lot of that has to do with the fact that, we've only got a couple of games left in the NBA and the NHL, and then it's baseball and golf for the rest of the ride until fall. I want to see baseball do well. If the owners decide to lock it out, and especially decide to lock it out because they do not want to spend more money than they're already spending, would we end up seeing the progress made over the past 2 years in Major League Baseball reverse itself? And if so, is that recoverable? Or are there enough people like me in the expendable income age now that remember the mid-90s lockout and go, okay, I'm out. I'll see y'all in 10 years again. I don't know. We'll see. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. I don't disagree, Joey B. But the only question is, what amount of the owners say we would rather figure out the workaround for that than not have a cap anymore? Because while they may not want to spend that money, they also don't want to see other teams putting out $1 billion in contracts like the Dodgers have. Give me 30 seconds, guys. I'll be right back. Dewey says salary caps in baseball needed. What the Dodgers, Yankees, and Mets are doing and have been doing is ridiculous. You know, I've had this conversation with Cody Decker, former Major League Baseball player, my co-host on Saturdays, Bet for the Cycle, noon to 4 on the Bet MGM network, if you maybe are into that sort of thing. We've had this conversation many times, and my conversation is that you should not be mad at the Dodgers, the Mets, and the Yankees, because nothing they are doing is outside of the rules of Major League Baseball. In fact, quite the opposite. It's all allowed. I've never understood why it is that we would be on board with, I've never understood why it is that we would be on board with the concept of deferred payments. Why would we be good with saying, you know what? You can pay guys and you can just pay them for like 50 years, because the inevitable conclusion was that eventually somebody was going to build not a super team, the super team, and that's the Dodgers, which is why it's a little bit shocking that the Dodgers took as long as they did to get here. But you also have to convince the players to come there and want to be a part of it. You got to win at least one to prove that you are capable of it, whatever. But you shouldn't be upset with the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets. You should be upset with Major League Baseball that they allowed these rules to be the rules. And for the record, you should be mad at the players over the years for allowing it to happen as well. Now, granted, if you are the players, you've got a financial incentive to be okay with it, especially if you're a star. Wait a minute. You're willing to say that you will allow us to play under a system where a team can pay us well into our 50s, 60s, and 70s and will likely triple the amount of money that they would have to pay us for a season or two, and we don't have to do anything but say yes? Yeah, we're good with that. The deferred payment concept is exactly the reason that people have asked for a cap for so long. The Dodgers are exactly the reason that people have asked for a cap for so long. Again, I'm not mad at the players. If somebody came to me and said, hey, Rob Brown, we'd like for you to work less and get paid 5 times as much, I would say yes. If they came to me and say, hey, Rob Brown, we'd like to pay you 5 times as much to work half as much, and oh, by the way, everybody else in the building is going to have to pick up your slack, I'd still say yes, because that's a lot of money. And good intentions doesn't get the electric company to keep my lights on. Money does, and literally nothing else. So I didn't get upset at the players. I would get upset with Major League Baseball for the fact that they have allowed these rules to be these rules for so long, despite the obvious inevitable conclusion, the LA Dodgers of 2025. That's going to be the biggest issue for me. All right, I just wanted to address Dewey's text right there before we move on. I was listening last night to an interview with the topic being obviously the House v. NCAA settlement between Pat McAfee and Pete Thamel. Pete Thamel, of course, covers college football intensely for ESPN. And Pat said, I got a bunch of questions because there's a lot of vagary to all of this. To which I said, I agree. And also, even though you didn't actually say vagary, great use of the word vagary. So, the athletic director of the University of Kansas is a cat by the name of Travis Goff. And Travis Goff was on SiriusXM's College Football Radio yesterday. And he said that he is attacking the new era of college athletics post-House v. NCAA settlement with a sense of optimism.
Probably one of those moments, hey, log off X. It's something that my wife advises me to do, and I didn't, but it's a little bit because you just get tired of such a negative kind of perspective. At least I do personally. Like, hey, this is a big moment. There's no reason not to be positive and optimistic. It's not perfect, but somebody tell me where perfection lies in this space in particular. And I'll be honest, I just think let's put our names behind something. If we're going to go out there and have a ton of commentary, let's be able to own our comments, our statements, and if you're not going to do that, then hey, the sky hasn't fallen yet. I know we continue to claim that it is in our industry, but it hasn't yet.
I like that a lot. Back in hour number 1, Zoe and I were having a conversation about the House v. NCAA settlement and what comes next and how this all plays out and yada, yada, yada. And the conversation we were having was kind of circling around what does the disciplinary action process from the College Sports Commission genuinely look like? How does it really play out? How does this all work out? And, you know, I pointed out that what I would like to see is for the school that commits the very first violation of whatever rules and guidelines are put into place about revenue sharing, NIL, whatever, by the College Sports Commission, I would like to see them bring an absolutely thunderous sledgehammer down upon that team. And the reason why is I would like there to be established a sense of, if you violate the rules of this thing that we have all agreed to allow to be the disciplinary committee of college athletics, if you violate an agreed upon set of rules, regulations, protocols, whatever you want to call them, you should become uncompetitive for a while, ineligible for championships, for postseasons, whatever. And keep in mind, there's a lot more pain to that than just the school. Because if you are, let's say, the Oregon Ducks, and you are the first team to get busted, and the commission comes down and says you are ineligible for the postseason of that sport for X amount of years. You think you're getting 5-star recruits to come to your school at that point? When they're being told straight up, you can come play here, but you will never play for a championship because your team's not allowed there? No, it's going to make life a son of a gun at that point, right? Like, that's going to suck for them. And I think you got to bring the hammer down to the point that other schools look and they go, man, it sure would be nice to play in that gray area and find ways to give ourselves a competitive advantage in recruiting, getting guys out of the portal, maybe on the field on Saturdays. But I'll tell you what, we got visions of natties dancing in our heads too. And at the end of the day, a slight competitive advantage over our rivals is not worth the risk of getting bounced forever. And you want to discourage outside parties from violating the rules intentionally or unintentionally on your behalf. You want to encourage every outside party who wants to get involved to do so through you, through the NIL Go Clearinghouse, yada, yada, yada. Because I want businesses out there afraid to get involved in the NIL world without putting it through the school's compliance. Because the last thing I want, as the owner and general manager of Bob's Used Cars, is to hand an NIL deal out to a quarterback that gets accepted, goes through, and then the commission one day circles back around, takes an old look-see-poo at it, and goes, no, you violated 3 rules, and because of that, your favorite college program is now no longer eligible to win championships. Because who wants to be the reason that that your school can't win a thing? And I want the schools absolutely 100% on guard. Because the other thing I don't want, and I do think we're getting a little off the reservation here, but hey, what are you going to do? Welcome to the Rob Brown Show. The other thing I don't want is Bob's Used Cars, that of Columbus, Ohio, giving an illegal NIL deal to a 5-star recruit in Ann Arbor, Michigan, knowing full well that if it gets caught, the Buckeyes take the fall, and bango, I just helped take my rival down, right? Like, I want everything to be out in the sunshine. But I'm going to agree with Travis Goff, the athletic director at Kansas, And I'm going to agree with Travis Goff that I am approaching this new era of college sports under the banner of the College Sports Commission in the shadow of the House v. NCAA settlement with a sense of, dare I say, almost relentless optimism. Why? Because I do think that we have been handed a blank slate here. I think that we have been offered an opportunity to do what should have been done when NIL became a thing, to do what should have been done when the transfer portal became a thing, to do what should have been done time and time and time and time and time and time again over the past 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. And that is to say, let's get everything down now. Let's build out our rules. Let's build out our roadmaps. Let's lay down our mission statements. Let's set our goals and objectives. Let's put all that on the forefront and get it done now. Because that's not to say they will all stand up in the face of scrutiny and potential litigation for years down the road. In fact, I would be willing to wager that within the next couple of years, we have a lawsuit from some kid and some lawyer and some agent somewhere come down the pipe, which changes a rule. And they go, you know what? Actually, you have that rule, but in the eyes of the jurisdiction of whatever entity in question, you can't enforce that rule at this point. I'd be fine with that because, as I said when we talked portal, when it was being created, NIL, when it was being created, and as we have talked about many times since then, it is easier to prop up all the rules and make the governed parties attack them one by one individually than it is to allow the parties governed by the entity to go do whatever they want to do and then try to take those things away from them. If you make them gain by attacking the rules, then your rules are up. Some of them won't be attacked, some of them will, but at least the structure is there. But if you allow people to just do whatever they want and then try to circle back around later and say, you can't do that, when someone has something, they are a hell of a lot less likely to give it up than they are to attack it when they never had it in the first place. So I'm with Travis Goff on this one. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful because I see a blank slate and I see a group of people who have seen so much change and so much volatility over the past few years that I would like to believe that they are going to look at this and go, we can't go back to that. We can't go back to that free-for-all Wild West, blah, 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 blah. We can't do that. So let's put all the rules up right now. And then let's fight to defend them later as opposed to fight to establish them later, which never goes well. I like that take from Travis Goff. I don't know about you, upstate South Carolina. I'm actually really excited about what's coming after this NCAA v. House settlement. Let's take a break. Back after this on The Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Oh, my back is popping like a machine gun.
medical revolution since 2018. And using regenerative medicine, they have helped tens of thousands of people get lasting joint pain relief using natural treatments that harness your body's own healing power. The truth is, regenerative medicine used to be an alternative treatment, but now it's mainstream. And QC Kinetics is the nation's leader. Their well-respected protocols include potent and powerful cellular level treatments to revitalize and restore damaged joint tissue. They are not masking the pain, they're going after the very source of it, so you can say goodbye to that chronic pain and live your best life. Learn more about this revolutionary treatment and get a free consultation. Call QC Kinetics today at 864-448-3772 in Greenville and in Asheville. 864-448-3772. It's QC Kinetics.
Thy ticket, Lady Jennifer Coombs.
Well, many thanks, good sir. Here is my Discover card.
They accept Discover at Renaissance fairs?
Yeah, they do here. Discover is accepted at the places I love to shop. Get it?
No, Steven, I said I was going to back off a little bit because, you know.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
What did I do, doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so light.
I also overdid it a little bit. So,
Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times. Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor. I'm so glad I did. Visit notimetowait.com.
and by the way, this thing that you have said, there is no such thing.
The what?
I was talking to Stream.
A lot of people disagree with that, Steven. Shockingly.
There are no gag orders for me. I work for Mel Brooks.
Always streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey app. Make that fan your favorite.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan of State. Rob, the Great Lonzo, you be a part of the show, 844-326-3663. Got about 10 more minutes before we ask what the X is going on and get up out of here for the day. I'm going to end the show the way that I started it. And that is by completely dampening the mood of myself and everyone around me. If you don't care about soccer, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to talk about it for a second. If you do care about soccer, this is for you. If you are rooting for the demise of soccer across these great United States, number one, you're going to be magnificently disappointed, but also stick around because you will take some level of pleasure out of my disdain for the next few minutes. Last night, Team USA participated in one of its final handful of exhibitions, friendlies, tune-ups, warm-ups, whatever you want to call it, approaching the World Cup. The World Cup that we host begins exactly and precisely 1 year from this very day. So it is an important day and a wonderful time to talk about the World Cup. It's a year away. And it is the single most important World Cup of my lifetime. Is it because I'm a selfish punk and I get to go to this one because now I'm a grown-up with expendable income and the willingness to burn vacation days to go to the world's largest sporting event? Yes, that's exactly why. But also because, as is commonly accepted, the one thing America loves more than anything else is winning. By golly gee willikers, are we willing to let people and entities off the hook if they win? Aren't we? So this felt like a massively important World Cup because it felt like a World Cup that if we were willing, capable, able to, and did win on our own soil, on a regular television schedule, in front of our own fans, and put on a bleeping show, then next year, 1 year from today, could have been realistically the explosion in terms of American football popularity and therefore long-term success that some of us have been waiting, anticipating for a very long time. We let a lot off the hook if we win. And so here's this fantastic opportunity that we had to win in our own NFL stadiums, in front of our own crowds, on our own soil. But in order to do that, obviously, you got to practice, you got to scrimmage, you got to get better, you got to find out exactly who the hell you are and act like it. Last night, Team USA trotted out, I will acknowledge, a combination of guys from the B and C squads. Guys that most of them will not make the World Cup roster a year from today. But a bunch of guys that are on the cusp of it. A bunch of guys that, hey, you never know. Another year of development, another year of practice, another year under Mauricio, another year of getting better as players, maybe. And on top of that, considering like 9 of our predicted starting 11 next year have opted out of this round of friendlies and the upcoming CONCACAF Gold Cup. Who knows if one of y'all may have performed or at least showed the promise to perform in a way that one of those guys goes down hurt. We need a center mid. We need a left back. Hey, this guy played well in that exhibition. Or if nothing else, busted his ass in that exhibition and showed that he really cares about this. This matters to him. We didn't do that. We played the Swiss yesterday. And again, in full acknowledgement of the context of what we were watching, the Swiss are a very good footing country. They're a very good football team. And they play a style of game that is tough to crack. It is a defensively minded game. They want to sit back in the box. They want to let you attack. And then once you make a mistake on the attack, then they're going to push the counter. That's what they want to do. They never even had to really do that because we looked like booty cheeks last night. I mean, just rank last night. Now, losing 4-0 is not the end of the world. Losing 4-0 doesn't bother me all that much. It is not that we lost 4-0 to the Swiss. It is how we lost 4-0 to the Swiss. And I'm not even talking about how we lost 4-0 to the Swiss in terms of, hey, that team was far from the best that we offer, and that was very close to the best that the Swiss offer, and they just beat us. Again, I've told you a million times the story about my old middle school coach, Tom Grant, who after we lost the county game sat down and said, boys, today you had the biggest problem in sports. The other team was just better than you are. It happens. I'm not upset about that. You know what the one way to get Rob Brown to tune out of a sporting event is? You know what the one way to get Rob Brown to leave a sporting event before 000 on the clock is? Very simple. Don't show effort. Don't show pride. Don't compete. I will support my football team if my football team is bad. I will support my basketball team if my basketball team is bad. I will support. Hell, the Pelicans are the perfect example. My basketball team is booty cheeks. And yet, I watch as many games as I can of the New Orleans Pelicans. Why? Because the dudes that are on that team, the dudes that dress out, they bust it. They go for it. Herb, Trey, the boys go for it. They're not very good, but dadgummit, I feel represented, even if we lose, if the boys go out there and put up a fight, I didn't see that last night. I didn't see that. You know what I saw last night? I saw a bunch of guys that were in one of two positions. Either A, they just genuinely did not care. Like they genuinely just looked at this as just a game we got to go play, right? Like we want to be here, but we just got to go play this game. A. Or B, and this is what I'm afraid is true because I think this is the one that I believe would genuinely lead to the downfall of what little momentum is remaining for Team USA football. The other possibility is they look to take whatever opportunity they're given, but they recognize that the guys that are on the main roster are just the guys that are on the main roster. And obviously your superstars, your Christian Pulisics, your Weston McKennies, your Gio Reynas, those guys are going to have a little more wiggle room. They're going to have the opportunity to make a few more mistakes than some of the younger guys and maintain their spot on the roster. But you know what they should not be? They should not be untouchable. They should not be beyond reproach. They should not be so settled into their spot that they believe that they can just not show up, not take it seriously, not really care. It doesn't matter because they're staying on the roster come hell or high water. And the way that the youngsters played last night, it leads me to believe that either A, we have a developmental system that is bringing up dudes who feel like playing for Team USA is something they take for granted, or B, we're bringing up a bunch of dudes that recognize I'm not getting on this roster no matter what I do, so I'll go enjoy the free trip and the vacation to Nashville and the hotel room and Broadway and yada, yada, yada. And I'll go out there and I trot around for my 90 minutes of action. And then I'm headed down to find some country girls and local music, baby. Here! It's one of those two things. And neither one of them is good, right? If the team busted it, and they got beat 4-0, I'd go, you know what? All this shows me is some of the things that we need to work on in our developmental system so that the next batch of players has a better chance. But the effort wasn't there. This wasn't something that I looked at and I went, gosh, we just got beat by a really good Swiss team. No. We didn't try. And if that is the mentality and attitude of the developmental guys, the guys that I would like to think would be out there dying on the field for a chance to carry the flag into the World Cup. If that's the attitude of that squad, I have zero reason to believe or trust that the golden generation on the main cup roster is going to have any added level of effort over that. And that, sucks.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
All right, time to look at the world of social media and see what's Xing, and Rob will let us know why. The first thing that's Xing is Kyrie Irving.
Because Kyrie is going to Antarctica to prove that the world is flat.
That may very well be what he's going to do in the future, but he has been online on podcasts and stuff asking people to please stop making fun of Karl Anthony Towns.
You know what? I respect that. I really do. I respect that. People have been busting up Karl Anthony Towns, and if you have not seen it, effectively the rumor is Karl Anthony Towns is gay, and people are busting him up for it. Shut the hell up. Shut up. Like, just stop. Who the hell cares? It doesn't impact you. Leave people alone. More importantly, and this might be the one Kyrie's actually after. I've seen a lot of people who have started to spread the narrative that the New York Knicks loss to the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals was because of Karl Anthony Towns. If you believe that, you didn't watch the series.
That's why they're making fun of him. Yes.
If you believe that, you didn't watch the series because that was not on
If you watched anything on TV, everyone was blaming him and saying they need to get rid of him.
It is absolutely the reason that the big take I have had this week is I am so tired, not just of the hot takes, but the pure, unrelenting regurgitation. Some big bloviator on TV gives a hot take, and then I go online and I see 99 wannabe fake-ass fraudulent sports broadcasters who just regurgitate the exact same point, and the one we're going right now is, it's Big Cat's fault. No, it's not. Shut up. You don't know ball, brother.
All right, the next thing is Xing is Mariah May.
No, that is not her name anymore. She is now Blake something.
Come on, you got this.
I didn't watch it last night.
Okay,
so
well, I mean,
I just saw her on
it's
Twitter.
a very famous blonde who has
Monroe.
There we go.
That was it. Blake Monroe. Hey, listen, I'm just going to say.
Is the Blake from another very famous blonde who's been in trouble and stuff?
I don't know. Here's what I do know. What I do know is that just to make sure I am for sure nailing it, I'm going to go search Blake Monroe before we get to the next topic. Just to make sure I got it, just make sure I got it right. That's all. No other reason. No other reason at all.
I think it's a great name, actually. And they're using animated stuff for her intro and things, and it's kind of cool.
I don't have an issue with this. Her entire character is just a Sabrina Carpenter knockoff. That's all it is. And I'm good with that.
By the way, they've already said that. But it also just looks like Bewitched. Now, you may not know Bewitched because you were not born yet. But, yeah.
Stop coming at me about pop culture this week, Alonzo.
Okay. Well, Bewitched was out before Sabrina Carpenter was born, and it's the same thing.
Bewitched was out before I was born.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's just using old stuff and making it look like it's new. That's fine. It's called recycling. Yay, Earth. All right. The next thing that's axing is Jason Kidd.
Jason Kidd is at, okay, this is freaking hilarious. So the Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau, and within a couple of days, they have reached out to Ime Udoka, the head coach of the Rockets, and Chris Finch, the head coach of the Timberwolves, requesting interviews with those two head coaches, and they both said straight up, no, absolutely not. You're not talking to our head coaches, which means that the Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau, who just brought them to the Eastern Conference Finals, farther than they've been in like 30 years. As for coaches, those two teams said absolutely no, meaning the Knicks have now gotten turned away twice. But the rumor going around right now is that is a smokescreen because they are interested in Jason Kidd, and Jason Kidd can't acknowledge that right now because he's still with the Dallas Mavericks. They'd have to get a bunch of stuff worked out. But there's one more cooking conspiracy theory right now, and it is this. Jason Kidd, who is considered by many to be an okay head coach, not great, but okay. Jason Kidd has a working, established relationship with Giannis Antetokounmpo. And so the belief is right now that the Knicks are going after Jason Kidd because they believe that Jason Kidd could be the guy that unlocks getting Giannis out of Minnesota into New York. You add Giannis to Cat and Jalen Brunson, that team's going to the finals next year.
All right, two more. One might get me in trouble. I don't know. The first one is Superman.
New trailer drop?
Little pictures and videos being...
I saw one where Guy Gardner conjures a Green Lantern middle finger.
The multiples of those.
It's incredible.
Yes.
It's incredible. This movie's going to be fun. I just want it to be fun.
And finally, the last thing that's axing is the U.S. Open.
At Oakmont, an event that no matter how many times I went out and tried and practiced and played, I would never, ever, 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 ever qualify to play.
What a loser's attitude. Come on.
By the way, Dewey texted earlier and said, Rob, you're a terrible influence on children. No, I'm not. I'm a wonderful influence on children. Kids, you can't be anything you want. And you know what? That's okay. Find your passion, find what you're good at it, be as good as you can be, but recognize that it may not be the thing that you do forever and always, and that's okay. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow to do it all over again, but better on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate later.
Sometimes you say a prayer, sometimes you shotgun a beer.
There was a clip from Game 1 with Paul Maurice, the head coach of the Oilers, who is the guy who does the sometimes you say a prayer, sometimes you got like a beer guy, where the reporter, Kathy Kelly, by the way, former WWE backstage reporter, is now the sideline reporter for TNT on hockey.
She still is.
She was talking to Maurice on the bench, and she points out that I think it was Leon
Sure, it was
Draisaitl.
Kathy Kelly. Sure, it wasn't the other girl with the eyes.
I'm pretty sure it's Kathy Kelly. Now I'm doubting
Because she's a hockey girl. She was a hockey reporter before she was on the WWE.
Yeah, pretty sure it's Kathy Kelly. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is, bench reporter was talking to Paul Maurice about, I think, Leon Draisaitl, who's playing out of his mind. And he's got a contract coming up. So she's like, hey, talk to me about him in his game right now. And he's like, oh, he's playing well. Like, nobody can touch the guy. He's like, glowing compliments about him. And then she goes, yeah. And with the contract coming up, I'm sure nobody is happier to hear you say that than his agent. And he leans into the mic and he goes, he has the plague. I'm pretty sure he's deathly ill and he's never going to get better. And we are really sorry to him and his family. Oh, dude, it was hilarious. This is in game. And he's just like popping off. It was freaking hilarious. I am now fully on board with either team winning the Stanley Cup because I love Paul Maurice. Sometimes you say a prayer, sometimes you shotgun a beer. Nick at Night.
So was it Jackie Redmond?
That's who it was.
Yeah.
You're right. That's right. It was Jackie Redmond. Nick at Night and what was the Family Matters block? TGIF. Nick at Night and TGIF raised me. And Saturday morning cartoons, obviously. All right, that's it for us, dudes. You're spectacular people. Thanks for being here.
I was already pushing 30 probably when Nick at Night came out. So, I mean, you know.
I was a cheering. I was a Ute, Your Honor. I was a Ute. Nick at Night was a big deal. And then one day,
They
Nick at
started
Night.
out playing like My Three Sons and a bunch of stuff like that. So
When I was Nick at Night, it was Bewitched. It was all those shows. And then one day, and I'll never forget the day that I really genuinely recognized that time was passing me by and it was an inevitable reality. Was a handful of years ago. They brought back Nick at Night for a minute. And they were like, we're going to bring you back to some of your classic old school TV shows. And then I turned it on and it was like Boy Meets World. And I'm like, go to hell. Absolutely not. This is not nostalgic old school TV, but apparently it was. That hurt my feelings. Okay, have a great day. Bye.